Hello, everybody. It is Sadie. Just before we get into the episode, I have two things that I want to say. One, if you finish this episode and you think, wow, this is so good, I want to listen to the next one right away, you can by going to tstv.show. That'll take you to our Patreon, where you can give us 3 measly American dollars to get the next episode immediately. And then you will be 1 episode ahead until the end of time. You're traveling 2 weeks into the future for 3 measly American dollars. You should do that. 2, just a heads up, because this pilot episode, a little bit of first podcast audio recording. There's a little bit of funky audio stuff. It's still a great episode. Just some stuff of like my metallic mic stand was picking up some little like bonks in a way that it doesn't now that I have a t-shirt wrapped around it. Oh, and I think it was like also the pilot episode. I was doing all the recaps, and then immediately we were like, it's way better if we just do it back and forth. Anyway, just to let you know, if you notice that, it will be gone either by the next episode or like very shortly afterwards. So I think it's still going to be a great episode. I think you're going to love it. Enjoy it. And if you want more immediately, tstv.show is the place to go. Okay, thank you. Enjoy. I'll let the music take it away. Welcome to the Twin Peaks pilot episode of TSTV, a podcast where I, Sadie, guide my friend Lily through the wild world of Twin Peaks. Lily, how's it going?
It's going great. We've been talking about this for what feels like 30 years, and finally it's come to the grand day.
That's so true.
Yeah, I'm hype. I'm feeling good about this.
How have you been? No, you first. How have you been? I don't know, what's you been up to the past week or two?
Well, by the time this comes out, I'm sure this will be like severely outdated, but I've been obsessively researching that one tech rich dude who's trying to live forever.
Oh yeah, isn't he on estrogen?
He has at least previously been on estrogen. He keeps saying things like, I am transitioning, to mean like to a younger self.
Uh-huh.
Look, I have many questions. He keeps doing like injections of things in his butt, and it just seems like that is not a butt that God gives you unless you were meant to do great things with it.
Lily, this is an insane start. I love this energy for episode 1 of the Twin Peaks podcast. This guy's butt. Yeah, shout out.
It was built to be put to work. Yeah, that's been my life basically. I'm hoping to make some grand expose. He's a real evil freak. How about you? What's up in Sadie world?
I mean, I have one bullet point on how we've been thinking this. We went to the museum together, smiley face, because we went to the museum together where there was a Georgia O'Keeffe exposition.
Yeah.
And also, what was the other guy?
Henry Moore.
Henry Moore. See, I only remember women's names. It was actually pretty sweet, though. They did a really good job at, like, this was at the Montreal Museum of Beaux-Arts. They were kind of putting their two arts against each other. It was cool. Mm-hmm. It was great. What was your favorite again?
My favorite was I wish I could remember what it was called, but there were a couple Georgia O'Keeffe pieces that were just an enormous pelvic bone superimposed on like a barren landscape, and it just seemed like the biggest thing in the world, and I thought it was going to crush me. It was epic. That
was fucking epic.
And tell us about yours.
So actually my favorite was the final one from that series. Man, it was fucking crazy. So there are all these series of like this desert painted like with or seen through these like animal bones that she had found. And I think it was like her husband had a ranch there, and that's why she was there. But he died, and then she had like moved back to New York State to settle his estate. And there was this poem. It was called Spring, and it's painted a couple years after her husband's death in New York. She actually wasn't, but it was the same kind of desert landscape, but it was a lot more vague. And there was kind of like an antler bone, but it looked it was much more like tendrily and like strange and grasping than all of the other bones in the series. And like over top everything is this weird like cloud that's kind of also a bone and kind of also like a creature with like its mouth like pouring out shadow. It felt like the kind of like specter of death. Yeah, it was very like compelling grief painting. But then in like the middle of it all are these two big flowers that I forget what type of flower they were, but they like symbolize renewal. They're like spring flowers. And like
Crambolias.
in the was special with like how big it was. It's a classic, like, I don't know. You always hear people say you go to the art museum and it's like, oh my God, it's big. That's crazy. And
but it hits you.
Yeah, no, it does. It's crazy. And there was like right in the middle, these flowers, the only like bright colors in the painting were like the little peaks of like blue coming from in between the flower petals in like classic Georgia O'Keeffe. Mm-hmm. And it just really hit me. It was a real like, my husband's been dead for 3 years and I'm making like the first painting that I've made in 3 years. It was crazy.
Thank you for not questioning at all the fact that I said the flowers were called crambolias. That's not true. That's not a thing.
Honestly, I was like, sure, yeah, Lily remembered it better than I did. The famous crambolia flower.
I just made a couple sounds.
I think that's David Lynch's next project. His project is maybe going to be called Wisteria, but could be crambolia if you blink, if you wink, you squint. Actually, we're going to hear about his new project in 2 days, Lily. Do you know this?
Oh shit, yeah, June 5th he posted that video. Yeah. Man, I really wish we were releasing these episodes live, but maybe the show will be out by the time that movie is actually coming out.
Whoa, that would be crazy.
Yeah, assuming it is a movie. He just like gears up to announcements that are just like, I love you guys.
Yeah, no, he said there'll be something for us to see and hear, and that could be another movie in the Twin Peaks universe, which has been rumored for a million years, or it could be he carved a log. Who could say?
It just took a week or two,
Yeah. By the way, it was just a music video and an album that he was working on. So you can go listen to that, but don't think that there's a secret posthumous David Lynch movie that we knew about in the past recording that you don't. Okay, bye.
So anyway, for those who haven't listened to our episode 0, I feel like we should talk a little bit about what it is we're doing here.
Yeah, it's Twin Peaks, baby. I have seen Twin Peaks. I've seen all of Twin Peaks. I fucking love it. I started this because I, like, once a month will just start thinking about Twin Peaks and I need to say things about it, or I just start pacing around my room like I'm an animal in a zoo. And Lily, I've been trying to get to watch Twin Peaks for a while, and this was what better way to make a YouTuber friend watch something than to turn it into sweet content.
Sweet content. We're gonna make dozens of dollars on this pod.
Fuck yeah, we're gonna get 2 pizzas. So today we are watching the Twin Peaks pilot, and it's very funny. I realized that I was looking at the list of episodes on Wikipedia, and I was like, okay, we called it our episode 0, but then this needs to be the pilot, because Twin Peaks does do the thing where the, like, next episode after the pilot is episode 1, even though it's the second episode.
Oh, funny.
So we're just gonna stick with their naming convention, and this is the pilot. This is not episode 1.
Good call. Good catch.
Yeah.
I'm actually really curious whether this show will attract like regular hardcore fans, or whether it'll just attract people who've like, to put it egotistically, heard of me and like just want to watch along. So I don't know how much information we need to give, but I guess it would be helpful to give like a quick little summary up top.
Yeah.
And I see that you have one written.
I do. So the bucolic northwestern logging town of Twin Peaks is rocked by tragedy when the town's sweetheart, Laura Palmer, is found dead, wrapped in plastic. As those who knew her, which seems to be everybody, reel from this crime, another victim, Ronette Pulaski, is found alive but in shock. Over the course of a very busy 90-minute pilot, we spend maybe surprisingly little time with FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper as he begins to unravel the mystery, and a lot of time meeting the very large cast of characters that make up the town of Twin Peaks. In the process, the show jumps across genre and tone, blending campy melodrama, doofy comedy, genuine tragic pathos and hints of Lynchian horror in its portrait of a grieving town.
Wow. Very well put, my friend. Um, yeah, that just about sums it up. And it really is a big cast. It feels like I'm already sort of getting to know the whole town. And I don't expect to be great with their names in this episode, so you may need to fill in the blanks here.
Yeah, I got you.
Mean sister, man cheating on woman. Does that narrow it down?
Yeah, it's like, I think collectively that is like 80% of the cast, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, I was actually shocked by how much adultery was afoot. Maybe we'll get into that at some point.
Oh, yeah, it's... Well, because, okay, so this was very much like the shtick of Twin Peaks in David Lynch's mind, was that there is a murder mystery, but that it is also a soap opera, and that over time the mystery just kind of fades into the background and we just are living in soap opera land. This is like a vision of it. Twin Peaks is many things. This could be one of them. But yeah, no, I definitely like the extent to which it is just a show about, oh mon dieu, I can't believe he is sleeping with her. I don't know why we got French there, but you know, like this is the type of show that it is. I would love actually to also pull up, I've been having us watch the Log Lady intros, which was when Twin Peaks went into syndication. They filmed intros with the Log Lady, who will, you know, she'll tell us about herself for each episode. Just kind of giving you a intro to it. I think this was a part of the idea being like this show is very bizarre and involuted and has a lot of things going on, and just having a still like typically David Lynch style cryptic, but a little something at the beginning of the episode just to make people who tuned in that week have something to work off of. But I think they actually do a really good job at imparting some of the vibe and giving us some kind of David Lynch clues to think about. So I will probably just edit it in. And do you want to listen to this together, Lily? Why don't I screenshot it?
I would love to watch this right now.
Awesome. Let me pull this up. So she starts and tells us, welcome to Twin Peaks.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. My name is Margaret Lanterman. I live in Twin Peaks. I am known as the Log Lady. There is a story behind that. There are many stories in Twin Peaks. Some of them are sad, some funny. Some are stories of madness, of violence. Some are ordinary, yet they all have about them a sense of mystery. The mystery of life, sometimes the mystery of death. The mystery of the woods surrounding Twin Peaks. To introduce this story, let me just say it encompasses the all. It is beyond the fire, though few would know that meaning. It is a story of many, but it begins with one. And I knew her. The one leading to the many is Laura Palmer. Laura is the one.
Isn't that crazy?
That was really good. Yeah, that was really good.
Lily, do you want to tell us about the woman that we just heard from?
Sure. So she doesn't look like you'd expect a log lady sitting at a fire to look. I feel like another filmmaker might have had her with like gray frizzy hair and a little witchy and scary, but this is just some lady who would...
She's just a lady who also has a log.
Which I want to call out her handling of the log. She holds it like a sweet little swaddled baby. She's very gentle with it in a way that says a lot about her character, I think. I mean, I assume. Again, I don't know her character. She is in the show.
Oh yeah.
She is a character, and she's holding the log in this pilot episode.
I mean, this is very funny. My note on this log lady bit is just her saying, "I am known as the log lady. There's a story behind that," while cradling a log is very funny. And then also when she comes up, and I think Dale just says like, "Who's that with the log?" And the guy goes, "Oh, we call her the log lady." I'm like, well, that's the story. One mystery down.
Oh, that's fucking funny. Yeah, I think this does a great job of building intrigue. It raises questions that I don't think I would have otherwise at this point in the show, such as, is there a mystery with the woods? So far they just seem like woods, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I think there's another line that she says in there that I actually am going to like. I feel like I'll be doing a lot of this of just being like, that's something interesting that a character said. Let's remember that for later, which is when she's like, Laura is the one. It's very interesting. Before we get into just getting into the episode proper, I do have some trivia that I put down about this. So this is interesting. This show was originally going to be called Northwest Passage, and that is the name of the pilot episode. All the episodes have kind of unofficial names, and this one is Northwest Passage because this was originally going to be called Northwest Passage and about a town called, like a fictional town called Northwest Passage in North Dakota, which is also very interesting. I feel like just like so much of Twin Peaks is the like Pacific Northwest, you know, so thinking about that getting changed would be really something. Anyway, the other thing is that
sorry,
go ahead.
Who up northing their Dakotas till their Twins Peak? Is that anything?
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm sending agents to your position to execute you immediately.
Fuck me, Jesus. That was just cut me down. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Other things here. It's just funny that so this was like, we're talking a lot about Twin Peaks as a David Lynch show, which it is, but it is technically, in the writing, was a collaboration between Lynch and Mark Frost, who he says that he wrote the more verbal characters like Benjamin Horne, and Lynch was responsible for Dale Cooper. And I love this quote. David Lynch just says, he says a lot of the things I say about Cooper, which is very funny.
And so who is Mark Frost? I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, he's kind of just like he seems to be a very like workmanly writer. I made a note of him because his bibliography is crazy. He's done Twin Peaks. He did actually write a novel of like things that he thought happened in Twin Peaks after the end of season 2, which is very yeah, I was just like, yeah, go for it. But like he wrote for a Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, also the first Fantastic Four. Like he seems to have he's just kind of around in Hollywood writing stuff. I think my favorite is his books that he's written. He's written a series of nonfiction books just about golf and golf history. And in 1995, he wrote The Six Messiahs, which I just clicked on at random. The two main characters are real-life person Arthur Conan Doyle and fictional character Jack Sparks. So, like, outside of Twin Peaks, Mark Frost is really just on some other stuff, but it seems like his involvement here, I think, has a lot to do with David Lynch. So much of this show, again, is about like being in love with soap operas and in love with this kind of like this is just what's on TV, you know? Like I think Twin Peaks has a reputation, and so much of even why I love it is because it's very like kind of highfalutin, but it is also just like in love with the kind of TV that you would put next to Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, already I'm seeing that this show is maybe not the stuffy thing that a lot of people like who haven't watched it characterize it to be. There are like really effective soapy elements in this, which I think is very cool. That the music is like, it borders on cloying. It's
yeah.
It is sometimes just telling you, oh, this is sad. It's great music though, so forgivable.
Yeah, it's very goofy. It's like, I think truly one of the things that like when I watched this in 2021 like really struck me is like season 1 is just so funny. Which also, you speak of the music. Let's just jump in. Let's talk about the intro, because that is a lot of fucking music, and it's so good. Angelo Badalamenti did all the music for this show, and he did such a good job.
Should have called him Angelo Goodalamenti.
That's so true, Lily.
Can you play an air horn?
Bam, 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 bam. My first note on this is just, it really is all saw sharpening for like a full minute. Like every time I've watched all of Twin Peaks, and I always forget how much the intro goes on for, of just like,
Yeah.
here's another, this saw is cutting this log, you know?
Yeah, that was that didn't totally draw me in, but later when we go to the sawmill, it anyway, we'll get to that.
I think it is actually kind of interesting, because when we, like we said, we both watched the first like half hour or whatever of Blue Velvet, which Blue Velvet was like one of David Lynch's early movies, and is very pointedly set in fucking Lumberton, which is actually a real city I'm seeing now, which is kind of crazy. It sounds like the most made up for a David Lynch movie name for a city.
Go off, North Carolina.
The opening of Blue Velvet is the like dad working in the yard in this kind of bucolic, like beautiful little suburban neighborhood, and then it dips underground and we see all the like crazy churning bugs down there, you know? Like Blue Velvet is very interested with, there's this idyllic like small town, and underneath it is some real sicko shit. So having the intro actually have a lot of like, hey, how about these logs, does feel like that is it is invoking that.
Well,
you know?
well, not to mention how about all these blades like cutting clean
Yeah.
through things. Like once
Like a killer would.
but in a way, right, that is totally like natural to the town and unquestionable. The fact of the saws has me thinking like, oh yeah, this is like a form of violence and destruction that like we can already see right now, you know?
Mhm.
So I think it was a cool little whisper of what may be to come.
Who could say? My other note of the intro is like that it really highlights the like, welcome to Twin Peaks, population 51,201, which is such a precise number. There's a part of me that like wondered if it was gonna just get changed to 200 with Laura's murder, but like it is it is very like, I think, emphasizing the small townness that they were able to keep, that they at least at some point did a census of like down to the single digit of tracking how many people there were.
Good catch.
And then we're off to the races. We meet Pete, a old fisherman who is going out to fish, despite his unimpressed wife. Although actually, it's funny. The first shot is the ducks on the water, and then this bizarre dog statue, and then we see who we will learn as Josie doing her makeup, which I remember just because like seeing her on screen, I'm just like, oh man. She is so beautiful, that actress. That is like, they really have done the like, it is the 90s. We are making a soap opera. We are putting some of the most beautiful women on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Sweet Pete out going fishing. And I love that there's like a reverse jump scare where we see the shot of him walking away from his house, and like immediately Laura's body is visible, but you don't really notice it until he does. Very, very fun.
Mm.
And I also loved like when he goes to inspect her body, which, you know, is dead and wrapped in plastic. There's like this bell tolling. And I'm like, is that from, I guess there was a foghorn. Is this from a boat? It's just very like the bell tolls.
Very much.
But the extent to which it is diegetic feels kind of up in the air in a way that I really liked.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Then we are off to the sheriff's office where he has called in, and we meet Lucy, who I fucking love. Do you have anything to say about Lucy? Because I just think she's great. This is the receptionist who we meet.
Oh, yes. Oh, she's so funny. Her like long-winded thing about what phone she's going to transfer the call to for the cop.
It's so funny.
That was such a funny joke. I had to pause to like explain to myself the joke so I would remember how funny it was. This is a very tense situation. She's giving a 30-second explanation about where she's going to transfer the call. That is in itself funny. And then she calls and I realize, oh, phones ring. So like,
it's so good.
So like he would have known.
This is definitely like the Lucy's bit is introduced immediately as just like, will explain everything constantly. And I love her for it. I think she's just so iconic.
Oh my God, I love her too. Her and Andy, who comes in shortly after, are some of my faves so far.
Yeah, I mean, like, and even so, I think like my big note, like I mentioned on this pilot, is like how much the tone is jumping around. Like this pilot really feels like it is playing with how much it can max out, like both max out tones in different directions and also like tread the knife's edge of tragedy and camp and like kind of making fun of itself and also like taking itself seriously in making fun of itself, and like how like to even just like I don't know, it's kind of crazy to have like we have Laura Palmer is found dead. This is, you know, the tragic dramatic murder to kick things off, and then the very next, like within a minute, the next thing we get is okay, so I'm gonna send it to the phone by the wall. It's the one, you know, like the jokes are just deployed. It's like he rolled threw like a bunch of dice down and just said, well, sorry, this next bit's a joke, nothing you can do about it, you know?
And like, it's not black humor, right? The jokes are just jokes. They're not really about the tragic stuff so far. I wouldn't know how to write this way without having just terrible like whiplash and tone problems. But I really love it.
Well, even like you talk about Andy, which I think we then cut to, you know, the cops are kind of unwrapping Laura's body, and Andy starts like breaking down and crying, and it is like I have just Andy's sad face in my notes, and like it is ridiculous, right? Like they're just like, oh, come on, Andy, not again. But it's like the music swells as they roll her over. It's like, you know, good Lord, it's Laura, you know, like it's playing it straight, but then also Andy breaking down and crying it definitely feels intentionally played for comedy, you know?
Oh man, maybe I'm just too much of a softie, but that just genuinely hurt me.
I think it's both, right? I think that's really what this show is doing so much, especially in this pilot. It really feels like it is bouncing around. Like, I don't think we're meant to laugh at him in a cruel way, but I do think it is kind of like a again, if this was like a like soap opera, I think this is the like, oh, Andy, you know, cue the laugh track. Do they have laugh tracks in soap operas?
No, they don't. But I see what you mean.
Well, you know what I mean.
on the body discovery, so the music they play, really powerful, very like center stage. Is it just the theme song? Because it felt very, very similar to the theme song.
I think it is slightly different because I was looking at Over Them, and I know, there's a great clip that I will put in the show notes of Angelo Badalamenti talking about like composing Laura's theme with David. That was kind of just like done ad hoc. It's really good because Laura's theme is kind of all over the place, and I think it is like mod. I think the intro has like some other touches to it, but they are very, very similar.
This is one of the first pieces of music I hear, and the fact that it is so similar to the theme, what it got across to me was like, this is the inciting incident. This is the thing we're making a show about.
Oh, sure.
You know, like we're basically playing the theme song again to my like untrained ear, because this is the most important thing. And that was cool to me. That was a choice I've never heard before. Although it seems like not actually a choice that was made, only one that I like perceived.
I mean, I think, you know, I think they like, this is very like, one, I'm sure that they have like the amount of like post editing, like they do, you know, decide what goes in there. But also I think that something that we will like certainly come to a bunch of times is that David Lynch is a very intuitive filmmaker. We'll have some notes later on about like accidents on set that he just decided to keep in. I think a lot of these things that are like, if it is hitting, I think if he didn't intend for something to be in it still hit you in a certain way, he would be delighted to hear that, you know?
Oh, that's great. That's going to make this more fun to analyze.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is like, honestly, I know a lot of people who have bounced off of Twin Peaks or like David Lynch's stuff in general. And like, I think especially when, you know, David Lynch will just throw stuff at you that is hard to understand. And I think that a lot of people will react with like, there's something that I'm not understanding. Like I'm failing to like analytically grasp this. And I think it is really the thing that I have found is like, you kind of just have to roll with it. Like David Lynch will just throw shit at you that he may or may not have a like analytical idea of what it means. Sometimes I think there are like, oh yes, this is like we can construct a house of cards of like all these little symbols and metaphors, you know?
Sure.
But I think a lot of the time it is also just like very about how it hits and how it feels intuitively. He's like a big transcendental meditation guy. Have we talked about this, Lily?
No, but I was reading about it because I'm researching transcendental meditation right now.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, David Lynch is a huge transcendental meditation guy. There are like I have spent time with fucking YouTube video essays analyzing Twin Peaks that are basically say it is all a metaphor for transcendental meditation, which I think we will definitely return to, like transcendental meditation and the unified field and whatever. These are things that are definitely not unpresent in David Lynch's work.
Mm-hmm.
But so all this to say, I think that a lot of things, if Twin Peaks or David Lynch is throwing something at you that feels like I don't understand this, I think for me, I think the best way is just sit with it and see how it feels affectively and like emotively.
Yeah, this makes sense.
I think there's not really a wrong way to sit with it, you know?
I appreciate that as someone who's not a very confident media critic. My approach to having opinions is let me spend 3 weeks deciding what my opinion is. I think the show's going to be good for me in that respect, just in terms of going with my gut a little bit more. Because we've watched a couple David Lynch movies outside, like not for the show. We've watched Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire together. And both of those have had things that hit me really viscerally in a way that I just like have not been able to put into words and don't really need to think about. And I'm looking forward to more of that too. There's a lot that I have here in my little notes doc, but there's so much more that I just could not grasp at that just hit me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's great. Well, hey, speaking of, our very next scene introduces a woman who we know from Inland Empire, Sarah Palmer, played by Grace Zabriskie, I believe. Did you recognize her?
Yeah, I did, and I was shocked how different she looked.
I know, isn't it crazy? She really, for those who have not seen Inland Empire, she appears at the beginning of Inland Empire as a Polish woman to deliver an ominous prophecy to Laura Dern. Yeah, so here she is as Laura Palmer. No, that's a lie. Sarah Palmer.
As Laura Palmer.
Laura's mother. And this, oh man, this
Kyle
scene...
MacLachlan also stars as Laura Palmer.
But this scene hits so hard. Like Sarah, who can't find Laura. I made a note of her, like, I'm not going to tell you again. Yes, I am. And looking for her. I love the shot that is like first introduced here of just like the shot from the crazy angle, like of the stairs and the ceiling fan, like going to upstairs in the Palmer household.
A shot we return to a couple times, and once her mom knows that she's missing, it just feels like haunted, absolutely cursed, this random stairway.
It's so good. And like, honestly, I think like the scariest scene, like shots in this episode are just this stairway at this insane angle and this crazy close-up of the ceiling fan, and then it like hits the little ominous musical sting, and it feels horrifying, and there's no reason for it to. Like, why are we looking at a ceiling fan? It's like it feels like it's planting a clue to get paid off, but they don't find a fucking note in the ceiling fan. It is just there. And I'm, like, that's another one to put in our little, like, bulletin board of images that the show might return to. But just as it hits here of just, like, this incomprehensible zoom in with this ominous music as we're, like, in this tension of, like, Sarah not being able to find her daughter hits so crazy. I really love it.
Visceral.
Grace Zabriskie really fucking sells, like, demented grieving mother in a way that feels so raw. And like, even like this performance compared to Andy's last scene, like Andy's like felt campy, I think maybe that's the way to say it. Not necessarily played for comedy, but it's definitely campy. And like Grace Zabriskie as Sarah Palmer, there's like no camp there. It is just like agony.
That's so true. It is realer than real. It is elevated without, there's nothing funny to find in it.
Yeah.
For this whole episode, it is just like pure, looking at her like drains the blood from my face.
The only funny note that I made was when she calls the army wife, who we learn is Bobby's parents, Laura's boyfriend. the Bobby's parents' phone had like a sticker on it just saying like, remember 911. Nope. Remember 911. No. Well,
Remember 9/11.
Yeah, this show was crazily prescient. Can you believe it? No, but it was like they have a sticker saying 911, and I'm just like, is this for if you forget that 911 is the cops? It was just thought that it was a funny little detail.
I thought about that a lot because it's not like there are a ton of like TV shows don't usually put in a ton of like text for you to read that has nothing to do with the story.
Uh-huh.
I guess if you're really panicking, you might forget what 911 is. You know, when I was in Scouts, like we were made to memorize the phone number 911.
It's very funny.
And we were told to never say it as 9/11, not only because that's disrespectful, but also because if we were really panicking, we might look for the 11 button on the telephone.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
I was like 8 and I was like, come on, I'm not that dumb.
From this, we move on. This is very funny. There's a very tiny little scene. My only notes for it are Audrey time. Hell yeah. Fancy shoes. And that's the whole scene? Because we just see Audrey with some fancy shoes.
I think it's just to establish that she owns those shoes.
I think it is, yeah, to cut back to them later. But watching it, I was like, oh, okay. Next scene. Like, honestly, I have a lot of notes just because, like, this pilot really jumps around from scene to scene a lot.
Many scenes. We're actually 4 scenes deep. Oh, Jesus, we are less than an eighth of the way through. We got to pick up the pace here.
Oh, yeah, we've got some. So next up, Leland is giving a business presentation with Ben Horn to some Norwegians about how they should invest in the Ghostwood estate. Or no, the Ghostwood, is it a hotel? What is it that they're actually trying to make?
It seems, well,
a resort?
Something like that.
Yeah. This one is so silly. Oh yeah, what was it? Fucking Ben Horn calls them cheese eaters. He also does the fucking craziest hork into the fireplace. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it was vile.
I hated it. The presentation of the Norwegians is so funny. I love I feel like David Lynch just chose them to be Norwegian because this was the language that having a translator into from English would be the funniest. Yeah. I fucking love him saying that Sven told him that his air sacs have never felt better. And then the guy translates air sac as lungesack, or I wrote this one down. Ben Horn saying health and industry go hand in hand. The Norwegian guy goes, helse og industri, de go hånd i hånd.
Hånd i hånd.
Insane. And again, completely crazy tone switch ups from aren't these Norwegians silly to like absolutely just devastating scene of Leland finding out that Laura is murdered.
Mm-hmm. Holy shit.
Love like the phone call of Sarah calling him and he goes, wait, Laura's not with you, and like as he says that, the cop car skids behind him is so good.
Oh man.
Sheriff Truman actually walks in past Leland and doesn't see him, which is kind of funny, but then the way that Sarah, like, you know, he just says it's Sheriff Truman here, and Sarah instantly is like, she can tell that Laura is dead, right? Like they're before any of them even say it, they both Leland and Sarah, it's like, you know, I wrote down like it's as if they suspected this might happen already, like this was a possibility. It's for pathos, but it's notable. It's, you know, that like Leland also says like, you know, my daughter's dead before the sheriff. I think he says like, I'm sorry. Nobody tells him anything. And it is really good pathos. It's like really heartbreaking. If we put on our like Who Killed Laura Palmer detective hats, arguably there's stuff there, but I don't think that it's really included for that. I think it is just like, because this happens also with Laura's friends in school later. It really feels like everyone had a sense that Laura was doomed somehow, that she was going to die, and like that this happening just feels prophetic almost, is like what I get from that.
Wow. My goodness. I want to flag a specific way that the sheriff let Leland know that Laura was dead, which is that he just took off his hat, right? And he kind of sat quietly. And the taking off your hat to me is like such a classically American, like quiet masculine show of sadness, right? And there were a lot of little conventions like that I noticed in this episode. Little like shorthand, that I thought was super effective.
Yeah, it's so good.
What I have here is that the show uses cliches a lot, but they know when to pull back and when like the lack of the cliches will make something like disconcerting almost because you're looking for them. This is a show that knows how to get goofy, and when it doesn't give you anything recognizable to latch onto, that is really unsettling. So when we hear Laura's mom sobbing on the phone after receiving this news, it just goes on, and no one says anything about it. We just linger on her sobbing, and I thought she would say something. I thought there would be, I don't know, some other signifier. Instead, it just makes us sit with it, which is such like a different approach compared to the shorthand thing when they both immediately know that their daughter is dead. Yeah, the relationship with conventions like that is something I'm going to be watching for.
Yeah, no, I really feel like so much of Twin Peaks is like David Lynch using the like vocabulary of soap opera and of kind of conventional television, using it as like palette to paint, and sometimes the absence is just as communicative as actually deploying it. It's great. I think it's also like the way that we get that close up of the phone cable also as Sarah is sobbing feels like a thing that I will flag of like, it's a very specific choice of like her voice being transmitted through the electricity. There are a couple bits in this episode where electrical sound, I'll talk about it the next time it comes up, but this feels like a very specific choice to be like that we are seeing, like while we are hearing her sobbing at the end of this scene, we're not seeing Sarah here, we're just seeing the phone and then like traveling up the cable after Leland drops it. Feels very pointed. And next up, we are at the Double R Diner. Lily, what's the vibe of the Double R Diner, would you say?
Well, I will tell you what it reminded me of, and this is a reference you and up to 5 other people will understand. It reminds me of Patisserie de la Gare on Westminster Street in Montreal West.
That is a crazy. This was the like patisserie, the little like baker shop near where we went to high school together. Which for the lore masters completing our ARG, another clue has been deployed.
Look by the train tracks.
Yeah. That's so funny. But yeah, no, this is so we're at the Double R Diner and we meet Bobby, Laura's supposed boyfriend, and Shelley, who is working, I guess just finished her night shift if her shift just ended at the diner, and is taken out by Bobby. Here we are. I love Bobby's what does he say? He says, "I'll see you in my dreams." I have that note. I actually don't even know what that is, but
oh yeah, this is him to the manager as he's leaving. So like, why are you flirting with your side chick's boss, Mr. Man?
Yeah, there's a like, we are definitely seeing the soap opera of just everyone is cheating on everyone with everyone is already here. On that note, I really loved they get into his car and he's like, "I think she knows about us." And then they start ravenously making out in the front seat of the car parked directly outside the establishment. Like, I also thought it was really funny of just like her being like, "It's happy hour in France." It's like, come on, bro, just drink and drive. Which I guess like he says he has to go to homeroom. So I guess she does just work night shift because they are just like, the chronology is kind of insane. I guess he was out last night, ? With Laura, and then has woken up early before school to go pick up his girlfriend from her night shift and then down a beer before going to homeroom is kind of crazy.
That's America. This is America.
That's so true. That's so true. My other note here is that he calls her, "Yeah, you're a rocket. My pocket rocket." Which, is she the boner?
Yeah, what the hell does that mean? Okay, I'm glad that didn't just trip me up. Because
It's very
that's not
silly.
something you say to a person. Like not even offensive. Just what is it? What does
I
it
mean,
mean?
honestly, all of the dialogue between them in this scene is like insane, and it definitely feels like the kind of dialogue that TV show writers write, but like dialed up to 11, you know?
Yeah. Well, he's saying like, "This is what you are to me," and she's like, "These are my intentions with you," basically.
Yes. I mean, and also it's just very like I wrote down her saying, "Quit worrying and start scurrying, Mr. Touchdown," which is like,
Mr. Touchdown.
yeah, and like very much the way of like, oh, this is snippy, it rhymes. I have a little nickname for you that is really giving like, you know, TV show writers when they're like, we have to make our characters say something entertaining. I also just wrote down that in this scene we get the mischief theme, which is one of I think my favorite themes from this show. I also really love so we find out that Shelley is married to Leo, who is a trucker. So Bobby was cheating on Laura with Shelley, but Shelley is cheating on her husband Leo. She's like, oh no, it's not an issue. You know, Leo's he was out fucking trucking. He's at Butte, and then of course, no sooner do they turn the corner and see his truck parked outside their house, and I love Bobby's exclaiming just Butte.
Butte. Okay, they're married. Wait, so okay, Shelley, so she's not in high school. She's just like an adult woman who has a husband. I guess I just figured that was her boyfriend.
I think I mean, so this is definitely one of the things in this show is that it is definitely doing the like Euphoria Riverdale style, like all of the high schoolers are in senior year and are 18.
Yeah.
Which is like the way that it's doing that also feels very intentional. But yeah, no, she is supposed to, she is just like, they're probably, I wouldn't even be surprised if they're the same age, but like she she dropped out or something, you know?
Sure, sure.
Next up, they're at the hospital. I think the thing that I wrote here, because we're not here for very long, but again, the tone is really like right on the line between melodrama and pathos, and there is an electric whine of the light in the hospital that is very emphasized, and then that fades to the sound of the wind in the trees. That is another thing. I'm just going to put a pin in on our little Twin Peaks pushboard and just say like the idea of electrical whine and like electricity being contrasted or like put alongside the sound of the wind in the trees. Let's just remember that one as a like David Lynch piece of interest.
Well, I think that's thing 2 or 3 to remember, and I'm starting to think I should actually be putting physical post-its like on my laptop or something.
Oh man, that would actually be great. I might do that while editing. Of put a little document. And yeah, so from there we go to school. And my first note is here we meet Donna, Laura's good friend, and my first note is just, oh, Donna's look here. Like when I watched this in high school and I kind of bounced off, I was nonetheless just insane about Donna's whole look with her little, like we basically have the same hair, Donna and me. This was absolutely a like Sadie is 17 years old and is watching Twin Peaks and is perceiving Donna Hayward and just going, oh my God, I need to be her, you know?
Holy shit. Yeah, huge gender vibe. That's basically my current hair. So
yeah, kind of same, right? Yeah, we really did it. But yeah, so this is we meet Donna and we are like more formally introduced to Audrey, who we see did have her, we saw her shoes earlier that I said were fancy shoes, only so she could switch into even fancier and more sultry shoes here. I guess this is a classic. Wear the respectable shoes and then get ready to
crazy time shoes.
Put the party shoes. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy time. I think I have a note of I think this was Donna and Audrey saying it to each other of just nice day for a picnic. Haha. Yeah, which is very bizarre dialogue. And then we have Bobby showing up late. He's so rude. I think this is maybe a good point to actually like sit down and talk about Bobby, because I think is one of my favorite characters, just because like the actor sells so crazily how much like every every single line delivery that he has and like every motion is like dialed to 1,000. Like he does nothing that is not rude teenage boy, you know?
That's very true. I hate the guy. Oh man. He's so unsympathetic.
That's so funny because I kind of love him. I kind of like he's a shithead, but I do kind of love to hate him a little bit, you know? And I just think like it's just like the most, I don't know, he's like so petulant and just so like his like walk, the way he sits down in every chair is just so like, ugh. And it's just so funny to me.
No, that's true. He sells the shit out of it.
But yeah, so then we get the James and Donna, who we meet here. James, is this our first time seeing James, or has James been around before this? I think this is our first James.
This is our first James.
Yeah, so James, who we will learn was another friend or kind of boyfriend, also of Laura's, and Donna, who we learn was a very close friend of Laura's, are in class and they can both see that Laura's desk is empty. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about James?
I think I wrote, I don't like this guy. And then I immediately changed my mind as soon as like anything else happened.
It's very funny.
It's like
Lily when seeing a man try to flirt with a woman.
That really could be what it is. Well, it's like, here's a close-up shot of a man having a reaction. That's suspicious.
Yeah, what are you reacting for, huh?
Why, as a man, are you sad about a woman dying? Are you sad about her boobs?
Yeah, kind of sus. He does also have the world's biggest forehead, but you know.
He does, but that just makes him, he really looks like a sweet kind of sad guy I would have known in high school.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like so like this like as they're in the classroom and starting to see the empty desk, like before there's any kind of, again, like they both seem to know like preternaturally that Laura is dead or that like there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And his face is like he really sells like he is fucking breaking down and losing it, you know?
He holds so much tension in his face that the only other person I know who does that is me.
Oh my God. No, yeah,
like,
it's great.
When I'm truly stressed out, there is like I have to constantly relax my face muscles to not stress everyone else out. And that's what kind of guy James is, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really love that also we have this girl who like we cut to her running outside screaming, and it's like never shown why she was screaming. It just happens. But I love how it just feel like it, you know, like technically how would she have learned, like, you know, the truth or whatever hasn't been unveiled about Laura's death, but it's like so, it's like really just is, it like ratchets up the vibe, and I really love it. And yeah, we get the horrible sound starts to play as they both look at the empty desk and then look at each other. They are sobbing. James, who is so tense that he snaps his pencil, and Audrey, who is disaffected, I guess, doesn't seem too concerned.
I loved seeing all these characters sort of play on each other in this classroom. I loved seeing that whatever knowledge Donna and James have is just, no, sorry. Who is the one? Oh my God. I'm really bad with names. I just need a second to figure out who's who here. Okay, James, Bobby. Bobby's also in the classroom, right?
No, because I think Bobby at this point shows up late and then like is brought into the office, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, my bad. In that case, I do not have anything to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, now it's time to talk about Bobby, because now we see him being interrogated in the library, which, speaking of like them just putting text, I thought it was really funny that throughout this interrogation, there's just the like poster in the background, just looking for adventure, which is very silly. And so, yeah, they're kind of trying to see if Bobby knew anything. He was out with Laura last night. They say that Laura was found just after dawn. And I actually really love here that him too, he's like, seems shocked. He's like, how could you, imply that I would have killed Laura? But he does already go into like, I loved her. Like the past tense is already natural.
Yeah.
It really seems like to everyone who knew Laura, her death is like horrible, but also not surprising,
Well, this is an interesting thing I notice when people actually die for real is their loved ones will often speak in present tense for like a long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like that really struck me, I think, how much.
Yeah, he just found out like minutes ago, seconds ago, and he's already internalized it. That is crazy. And I think part of why I don't like him, I'm sure he is somewhat set up to be, for anyone who was watching live at the time, like, oh, it's this asshole. He must have done it. Because he has no sort of upset reaction other than his usual high school douchebag aggression.
I also really laughed, and I think he was saying, like, what was he doing up this morning? He was like, yeah, I went running, which is so, okay, sure, Bobby Briggs, you went running, we believe you.
That is the kind of thing that seems like it would be an alibi, because you're not going to have, you weren't with anyone if you were running, you don't have a receipt if you were running, but he was literally somewhere. And do you think he was lying about being at the diner for like adultery masking reasons?
I mean, we saw that he was very scared. Like he did not want Leo to catch him with Shelley. He was like, "Oh, Butte." So I think that I think that there is that adultery masking is definitely a concern of his, which is a very classic kind of like mystery trope of the fucking Hamilton. If I could prove that I never touched my balls,
Oh my fucking god! Oh, I love the thing. Yeah, no, but the classic mystery trope of like lying, but not lying because you're guilty, lying because you're covering something else up that's unrelated.
Because you were fucking illegally
and sucking illegally. Well, if she's lucky, I don't know their situation. Just I don't think much of this guy, but you would hope that he would at least,
Man, Chaser Bobby Briggs and Trans Shelley is this is a strong object to rotate in your mind though. Okay, so moving on, we then get the principal's announcement of Laura's death, which actually I think this is maybe my favorite scene in the whole pilot. When I think about the pilot, I think this is the one that really captures what strikes me about the pilot. And I think it's because it is like so much of this pilot is, like I've said, it feels like it is about treading the razor's edge between the grieving of Laura's death being heavy and like devastating and haunting and real, and on the other side it being campy and melodramatic and almost goofy and like laden with sentimentality. And this scene feels like it is perfectly balanced on that nice edge. The way that it pans through the empty like school hallway as the announcement plays is so good. It is just like devastating and haunting. And like the principal's speech also is like at the beginning, his kind of like voice hitches when he's saying like Laura Palmer was found dead, and it feels so like not subdued, but it feels very like close to the emotion. And then as it continues, it almost gets more melodramatic. Like I think when he says the like join me in a moment of silence, that feels campy. And I don't know, it's just like this scene really, really gets me.
I do feel like, I mean, he's trying to play the role of principal, right? He's trying to do what he feels like he needs to do here. And then the way he just completely loses his composure as soon as he ends the announcement. Oh, fuck, that got me. He just breaks down sobbing.
Yeah, it's so, and like Donna's sobbing really fucking gets me. And even again, like James's reaction is like, his face is so sad, but it is also kind of goofy. I just wrote down five head because he does kind of look like that. And but yeah, I don't know. This scene I think really for me captures the pilot's ability to take this tragedy and play with the range of like emotions that you see on TV about something like this, and to like dance with a, like you were saying about kind of like how it will use cliches and then just drop them, and then like sometimes it just like drops the melodrama and it is just fucking miserable and like horrifying.
Uncomfortably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very direct. Woof.
Speaking of, we are back at the Palmer house. We kind of zoom in on the famous Laura Palmer prom queen pic, and here we, I guess, find out she was the prom queen. And then we see that is the same picture that Sarah Palmer has in her home, which is actually really interesting, because I guess she does have other pictures of Laura, but the one that is very highlighted is the prom queen. There's something there maybe about, you know, the image of Laura, that there's not a more intimate, you know, it's not Laura at home in like kind of a candid setting. It is Laura as the prom queen. Is very interesting.
This is the version of her daughter who she wants to like acknowledge or remember.
Yeah, totally. And the first note I have is just that it's they're fucking sedating her, which is crazy.
They're sedating, like chemically?
I think so. The doctor is like injecting something into her arm in this scene, and then he's like, "You can talk to her now, Harry."
Oh.
I think the implication is that it's like they needed to, or like wanted to, interview Sarah Palmer about like, you know, how did Laura die? And she was just losing her mind. And like, he is definitely injecting something into her. I think this is absolutely a like, you know, not sedating like, but I think this is absolutely like, have some fucking benzos or whatever so the cops can ask you questions.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like really grim.
Right. And do you think that is something they're like, because, okay, I see that in a previous scene you haven't noted that like this is propaganda. Do you feel like this scene, like, are they problematizing that? Or
to be honest, I think that is going to be one of the capital Q questions of Twin Peaks as a whole. Like how Twin Peaks feels about the cops is very complicated. And
so far it seems pretty straightforwardly positive, or at least like doesn't have any complaints.
Except that Laura Palmer got murdered, you know? I think I have to think about how much to say about what I think about this without kind of, you know, giving too much away. But I think that like the, you know, like we've talked about the violence under the surface. You know, this is something that is very, like we talked about Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
We're talking about like how Sarah Palmer, the version of Laura that she wants to present to the world. I think that the, you know, charming small town quaintness that, you know, when we finally get to Dale, he is so charmed by. I think the fact that that is also what killed Laura Palmer is, I think, very fundamental to my read on Twin Peaks. And like, you know, we're talking about the kind of pleasant surface versus the dark secrets beneath. But I actually think that my personal read on this, and this is also because I'm, you know, I'm a communist who thinks that we need to like destroy the Canadian and American states. But I think that like, for my CSIS agent who's listening, you can jot that down. But like,
yeah, that's just going to be a base thing with all of our episodes going forward, by the way. It's kind of where we're both at.
But like, you know, I think that to me, I think that there's kind of like a expanding brain meme of like, wow, Twin Peaks is nice. And the bigger brain is like, wow, but underneath the nice, there are grim things. And the even bigger brain is like the things that are quaint and nice and charming, like the police as they are presented in Twin Peaks, are also what is violent and what is horrible. You know, I I remember at one point I made a picture that was just like a Venn diagram of my 4 favorite TV shows, being Twin Peaks, The Sopranos, Deep Space Nine, and Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the overlap that I put between The Sopranos and DS9 was Dudes Rock, and the overlap between The Sopranos and Twin Peaks was Dudes Rock. This is the source of the evil, you know?
Oh, that's great. Sadie, you have to watch. Have you seen The Zone of Interest?
No, but I really want to so much. It's been on my list. I keep like waiting for the right night to watch it because I feel like it needs, you know, everything that I know about it tells me that it was the same for Twin Peaks. I spent years being like, I'll watch Twin Peaks when the time is right. Would you watch The Zone of Interest with me?
Yeah, I would totally rewatch it. It's something that I caught it in theaters months ago.
That must have been
And
crazy from everything I know about that movie.
It gave me a fucking stomach ache. It made me sick to my stomach. The sound design and just like, without giving anything real away, there are some moments where it uses color in the same way as those Rothko paintings that are trying to make you throw up.
Oh man, I would love to watch. Yeah, it's been on my watch list.
I mentioned this only because what you said about the things that are quaint are the things that are dark and brutal. I mean, that's that movie to a T, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, and even on that note, like, I think, you know, the Dr. Hayward, who we will learn later is Donna's father, who we, you know, like he's kind of portrayed as, you know, the kind of small town, homey, cozy doctor, but like he is fucking holding Sarah's arm and sedating her, and it feels like trapping the way he's holding. It does not feel like a comforting arm. I also really love, I put a note of like they're talking and she goes, "Who's upstairs?" And as if to reassure her, you know, Sheriff Truman says, you know, "Your husband and one of my men." And that actually really, I think, you know, if Sarah's like hearing something upstairs and is like, "Oh my God, is that who killed Laura?" And the answer is that it's, you know, don't worry, it's the head of the family and a policeman. I think really that this feels, I'm ringing my bell of David Lynch is telling us things through the camera. And like, that's the thing. I actually really don't know if I think David Lynch's personal view on the, how does Twin Peaks feel about the police is probably more positive than mine. But yeah, just, I feel like very strongly that this question and like this tension that you're feeling is basically like, I think one of, if not the primary tension of Twin Peaks as a decade-spanning artistic project.
Damn. Okay, excellent. This has me very intrigued. I will say as a brief aside that I was reading the political views section on David Lynch's Wikipedia.
Oh, man. I mean, it's like, because like we said, David Lynch is like, I think, he strikes me as one of those guys who's like, he doesn't say he's political, and the things that he feels strongest about are like movie making techniques and transcendental meditation. And so he just like comes to politics from that, and so the opinions can be a bit all over the place. What did you find?
Well, I found that he was buddy with pretty much every political system and movement. Like he was, okay, here's the thing. I was also reading about Frank Sinatra's political views the other day, so now I'm worried that I'm mixing them up. I'm
This
gonna
is
go take
so funny. We need to
look.
play a fucking, this is our new segment, Frank Sinatra or David Lynch.
Both had hair, both wear suits,
Yes.
both pretty old. One of
Yes.
them's old enough that he died. Just give me 1 second. Okay, yes, he has described himself as a libertarian. So here's a little Venn diagram moment. Both of them voted for Ronald Reagan.
Oh my God. David Lynch voted for Ronald Reagan? Fuck off.
And since then, well, of course, my man signed the Roman Polanski petition.
Oh God.
That's also in here.
Ugh,
Yes.
vile.
He endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016, wound up voting for Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's all
It's
over the
incoherent.
place.
Yeah.
And I think it's like also, it's the type of thing where someone who doesn't, like, I think especially with libertarianism, I feel like there's very much a type of guy who is just like, yeah, that sounds cool. I like the idea of being free.
Yeah.
And that's, you know what I mean? That it's back to the fucking unified field for him, you know? The unified field, I keep riffing on it. This is a transcendental meditation concept. Which,
yes, I figured as much.
Yeah.
He's got other things on his mind, basically. So we maybe can't find a super consistent or coherent analysis of the cops, but I will be curious what he will have to say.
Yeah. And I think the inconsistency is part of the tension that I think does actually like lead to it being a very interesting artistic text. Anywho, what are my other notes on this scene? I think I just wrote of like, she says, like, after she asks who's upstairs, she just kind of deflates a bit. And it's like, I can tell from the sounds that it isn't her. Fucking brutal.
Oh my God.
And again, we're back with this like ominous angled staircase shot and this little sting of the ominous music is really just so like, it just sneaks in there and it gives you a chill. And I read that so much of the tone in this like feels like it throughout this interview, and it's a very, I think, David Lynch across the board. Like it feels like it has to do with the shot to shot pacing. I think he really loves to let someone's reactions linger a bit too long, like to let the camera stay on someone for like an extra second after they're done their line to like see them sit with it.
So what do you feel like that does for the tone here?
I feel like it is almost makes it more artificial in a way, in the way that like I think that's not, I think especially in 2024 it feels like very not how you like, it's very not fucking snappy dialogue, you know? And I think that it's like both it's letting the characters breathe and it's letting us sit in their reaction, but it also in a weird way like makes it feel like almost like a soap opera, I guess, right? In that like it is kind of a like, if creating these silences that either would be there in the conversation, but we would expect them not to, you know, in a TV show, it really feels like it is highlighting. And like, I don't know, I say that and that makes it sound not artificial, but.
Well, it's like highlighting the artifice.
Yeah.
Like, why does this feel unnatural?
Definitely.
It's interesting.
My other note here is I think he talks about like, did Laura call you? And right as that happens, he gets a phone call, which was just a little, I don't know, way that lined up was fun.
Yeah, I like that. It feels haunted.
Did you have any other notes on this scene?
Let me take a look. I don't think so.
All right. Well, next up, we're at the mill. My first note is just silly Pete counting 2x4, 4x8. This is our big exposition on one of the other sets of relationships that will matter a lot in this show, which is Pete and his wife, Catherine, who owns the mill. Wait, no, Catherine manages the mill, but it is owned by Josie, who we saw for like a half second in that first scene. Also, I just wrote, Josie's outfits are all so gorgeous. The costuming is amazing.
She fucking stuns in this episode.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, so here we are introduced to kind of like the mill ownership debacle. Catherine Martell is very unhappy about Josie being able to stop the mill, which she does because she, you know, knows that Laura's been killed. I think it's revealed that Ronette Pulaski, who survived. Did we? I don't actually remember when we see her kind of wandering across the the bridge. But anyway, she's missing, and her father, Janik Pulaski, which I wrote down because it's a very Eastern European name, works at the mill. So Josie wants to shut it down for the day. Catherine is very upset about this. I wrote down, I love how she leaves this argument, just goes bitch, and then instantly fires a guy. We love characterization. I love, it's the pilot of a TV show. How are we going to communicate this woman's whole deal is so funny.
I wanted to highlight the fact that Josie comes into the like sort of control room of the mill saying to this guy, we got to shut it down. We need to just close for the day. And then Catherine puts this poor guy in the impossible position of saying, no, I swear to God, don't do it. Don't you dare. And the guy that they are both doing this to basically shrugs and
this
goes
is
like,
Pete also, who is
Pete.
Catherine's husband.
Oh, thank you. So
Yeah,
Pete just shrugs and basically goes like, oh, come on. Because this is an impossible, unfair situation that only really happens on TV. And so he's just like, whatever, and makes the decision. But that felt very, that felt like Catherine's strongest character beat that I've seen so far. Because I know that personally, like, I just wouldn't put someone in that position, you know? If they've been told to do something, I'm not going to tell them do the opposite or I'm going to be mad at you.
Yes. I mean, this is certainly, I think this Catherine Martell lady is a bit not nice. I think she's meanie, actually. And I actually thought it was really interesting that I think one of them says that one of the girls that's missing is one of Laura's schoolmates, which I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, she doesn't say that, you know, one of the missing girls is, you know, Janik's daughter, that like these random mill workers would also just know her in relation to Laura. It's very, you know, like the log lady said, Laura is the one. She really feels like everyone in town knows her, and she is like the portal through which everything about the town kind of has to pass through, you know?
I have thoughts on this that are still solidifying, I think, because that's like, maybe next episode I'll have something to say here. Basically, it is obviously not a coincidence that the character they would make the show about is the one that everyone knows. That is like an affordance of making a TV show. You don't want to have to constantly see characters explaining who your main character is.
It's intriguing though that we're identifying Laura Palmer as the main character.
Oh, true. I guess maybe focal point more so than main character. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let this percolate.
But it's kind of true. No, I like this take. I'm gonna keep this in. I think this is really interesting. I think that like having your thoughts on this even at this point is very interesting. And like I said, I think that I really want to hear your thoughts on this kind of stuff, even if it is just still percolating, you know, because I think that is so, I think that's partially, I just think that's part of what's fun about a reaction, like, you know, watch along podcast like this.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to, I think you should just feel free to say shit, you know?
Okay, cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anywho, okay, yeah, so it is at the end of the scene that we see Ronette on the bridge. And they really let the shot of her like walking along the bridge linger. It is really brutal. Anyway, next up we see James, who is stopping at Big Ed's gas farm, which I just read is truly just parodically masculine. I'm riding up to the gas farm on my Hurley. Who he says that Laura's dead. He's having a bad time. And I made a note. He does say about Laura, she was the one. So this, obviously he's saying this as a, like, you know, she was the one, but in terms of the log lady, like, Laura is the one. You know, I feel like there's something. Yeah, there's something going on there.
It was delivered so effortlessly, you know, and of course the one can have many meanings, but good ass catch. You're gonna be hearing that a lot from me, I think.
And I love the gas farm, which is just a gas station. I love that, like, its logo is like a turkey with a big egg that's lit up, it's like a gas egg. It's kind of crazy.
You know, a gas egg, like from turkeys.
Yeah, you know. Honestly, though, like, this is one that I'm also thinking about this, and I'm like, the idea of a gas egg, I would not surprise me if, like, I don't actually have a concrete memory of this, but it would not surprise me if this is something that we joke about now, and then, like, 2 seasons later, we're like, holy shit, it's just like the gas egg. But yeah, so we see that Ed, who is the parodically masculine man who is, I guess, a father figure to James, who was Laura's secret boyfriend, is consoling him. And then we see his wife, who I don't know if we hear her name, but she is Nadine, who has an eye patch and is nagging him about the drapes. She wants those drapes. And that's what we learned there. Next up, it's time for our boy. Our special little boy.
The boys are back in town.
He is in town. Special Agent Dale Cooper says his famous intro line about it being whatever date it is, February somethings, I think, that they celebrate Twin Peaks Day on. Like, saying all of this into his little voice recorder, that he is saying it will go to his assistant. Oh my God, what's her name? I'm forgetting her name.
Oh man. Was it Diana?
Diane.
Yes.
Yeah, his assistant Diane, who will, this is like, these are the Dale traits that will stay with us. I also thought it was really funny that he says he got food for $6.31 at the Lamplighter Inn, and he has to like take out the receipt to remember the name Lamplighter, but he does remember that he paid $6.31, which is so funny. He's just like so jaunty, and he announces that he wants a clean place, reasonably priced. And he inquires, he's just like, what kind of trees are these? Which is also so like, sir, what is your FBI assistant gonna do with this that you want a clean place, reasonably priced, Yeah. What do you think about Dale as in his introduction?
Oh my God, what a delightful guy. He seems like he's walked in from a different TV set.
Mm-hmm.
Jaunty is totally the word for it. I like him a lot. I like that he's not serious. He's very personable in the rest of this episode. Yeah, I love that he is saying things to his assistant through the recorder that have no good reason to be there, purely because that is a way to give us more insight into what is going on inside his head. He's just narrating, right?
Yeah, it's great.
I thought it was a lot of fun, and yeah, I like this guy. I like that he's not generic detective.
He's a happy little guy.
Yeah. What kind of trees are these? That is exactly the kind of thing I would say to someone who could not possibly help me with that question.
Yeah. And on that note, with our special boy introduced, we're going to take a quick break and come back for the rest of the pilot. Yippee!
Woohoo! Hello, it's Lily still. Reminder that we are a listener-funded podcast. This takes so much more work than I was expecting it to. And we love to have an editor who we can pay so I can do my job and Sadie can have her life and do her job. If you sign up for the Patreon, you will get every episode from here on out 2 weeks early. So the Patreon feed will be like a full episode ahead forever. On top of that, you will get our monthly bonus series, TSTV DVD, where we talk about movies. Sadie, do you have anything to say?
If you go to tstv.show and give me 3 measly American dollars, I will be your little jester and dance in your headphones once a month with special episodes.
Oh my God.
Once a month just for you. Go do it. I love you.
And we're back. We
Yes.
just took a quick 5-minute break. And if it sounds like I'm in a different room and maybe it's sunny out now, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're gaslighting our listeners now. This is our new bit.
So Vic, my partner, has this whole thing about gaslighting, which is that you should only call it gaslighting if it works. And with that in mind, I don't think I've ever successfully gaslit a person.
A girl can dream, though.
I got you pretty good with, what did I call the flowery? Crambolia.
The Crambolia. Yeah.
That was just straight
That
up
was a
lying,
successful
though.
gaslight.
Anyway, let's keep it going. So we just met our boy,
Our boy,
whose name I forget.
Dale Cooper.
Yeah, that's our boy.
I don't know. Well, and I don't know. I'm interested. I think also before we continue, just like because this man is arguably like the I think most people would say he is the protagonist of Twin Peaks. And we went through like almost half the whole episode, which, given that it's like a 90-minute pilot, was like a full normal episode's worth of television without seeing him. And I don't know. I think I just wanted to ask Lily, like, how it lands for you, the extent to which it is here's 10 million characters and how they all feel about Laura Palmer.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased to say it doesn't feel overwhelming so far. I'm a person who's really bad with remembering characters' names. I can watch and love a show or a movie and never learn the people's names. Like Challengers, I saw that a couple weeks ago. Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. But setting that aside, it feels just about fine. I feel like the amount of characters we've met really makes it feel like, yeah, this is a show about Twin Peaks. This is not about Laura Palmer's family. And I love a piece of fiction that is sort of about just the people in a place. I think it's cool that the main character then is like an outsider who has so far like a totally different like tone and way of speaking compared to everyone else we've met.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what that's gonna do. It's interesting to have a main character who feels like he's from a different show than the show he's a main character in.
And well, actually, yeah, it's like one of the first notes, because like going back into, I guess, the plot itself, he has arrived at the hospital and he is going to look at dead Laura Palmer. And actually, I think, like, speaking of his tone, I think I was really struck because I think the popular image of Dale Cooper, especially like later in the series, is very jaunty, but also homey, and you know, he is very charmed by Twin Peaks here, but I think that there's something about how he feels more foreign in this pilot than I think the popular conception of him or how he is later in the series. Part of that might be like just when you make a pilot, like, you know, like this way of like you've made an episode of this show and then it sits around for like a year and a half or however long to see if you will be allowed to make more, you know?
So you think his character is maybe something they tinkered with and adjusted a little bit for the next episode?
Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see next episode if it feels like that. But I think overall, like, I think the big thing here was that he was very almost unemotional, or like he was very jaunty and he was very excited about the mystery in a way that it felt like there was a lot of him not being sensitive to the tragedy of the Laura Palmer murder and him engaging with it in a way that feels more like archetypical detective show, and then the FBI agent comes in and he's just like all business about it in a way that I think, at least in like my memory, like affective memory, and like the way people talk about him is like less of a thing later on where he is like more wound up in the emotional landscape of the town. But I think it feels framed a lot more as like the guy from the FBI who walked in and is being all business about our sweet girl who's been killed, you know?
Yes, I totally agree. Since he is pretty much synonymous with the show, as much as Laura Palmer is, I'm very curious to see how he will kind of evolve as he spends more time in the town.
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing this here. I mean, even like, yeah, the first note that I had about him is he shows up and I think he's talking to Sheriff Truman and he's just so like, wow, those trees are crazy. And then segues immediately into, can I get the autopsy? Like this like girl's autopsy and wow, what a cool tree are like on the same register for him in a way that is kind of unnerving. Just calling her like he just calls her the dead girl.
Yeah.
Pointedly, when we see him then get into the elevator and go to see Laura, there is a one-armed man in the elevator with him, which I'm actually bringing up in part because I just noticed I had the Wikipedia page for this episode open, and here's a mild spoiler, but this one-armed man is called Mike. However, when I noticed when I hovered over it that when I click on this, it just opens Mike the musician, an American rapper, songwriter, and record producer based in New York City.
Wait, it tries to it gives him like a Wikipedia blue link.
Well, because all of them do, but it just links you to like the usually like just the I think it redirects to just like Twin Peaks list of characters with their page. But this one they didn't fix, so it's just linking to wikipedia.org/wiki/Mike, who is
he's a quite good rapper. Yeah, his album last year was really solid.
Well, shout out.
Shout out Mike. Burning Desire, good album.
I should check it out. But anyway, so he's in the elevator with Dale Cooper, and they leave the elevator and they are instantly accosted by Dr. Jacoby, who said that he was treating Laura. I think he says here he's a psychiatrist, and this guy's insane. He has like earplugs in. He's wearing a like luau tie, like a lady with a grass skirt tie and crazy blue shoes. I also hate him like as he's talking about how Laura used to see him. He's like fingering under the skirt on his tie.
Oh, Christ. Yeah. So what he says to the detectives, Laura's parents didn't know I was seeing her or something, in a way that I had no idea whether he meant like sexually, romantically, or like as a patient. And I'm sure that ambiguity was very much intended, and just, oh, he skeeves me out.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the worst guys.
He killed Laura. I'm deciding right now.
All right, Dr. Jacoby killed Laura Palmer. This is our call shot. It's locked in. But yeah, so we then go to seeing Laura Palmer's body, and actually this scene I have there were two things in this that I like. When I talk about David Lynch being a very intuitive filmmaker, there were two things in this scene that were just set accidents that he kept in.
Oh.
The first one is actually the flickering light, which is a very big, like, it's huge. Like, that really defines, I think, the vibe of this scene.
Well, they acknowledge it, like, out loud. They say sorry about the flickering light.
Yeah, no, it's fully just that, like, the light bulb on set was busted, and David Lynch said, no, keep it in. And then, like, put a line in about it or whatever.
Huh.
But it does really add to the unsettlingness.
Yeah, in a way that would actually feel a little bit on the nose if they hadn't called attention to it and been like, this is not flickering because of magic. It's flickering because this is a bad hospital.
So the other thing in this scene is, I really love this. There's like a little assistant doctor with them, and Dale says to him, would you leave us, please? And the guy just turns to him and says, Jim. And they pause, and Dale goes, would you leave us, please? And that was just the actor whose name was Jim, like, mishearing Kyle MacLachlan and thinking he was asking him what his name was.
Oh my god, that was real?
Yeah, no, that was fully just the actor is Jim and was like, he's asking me my name.
That was so funny. That was like such an effortless joke.
Oh, it's so good. And I love that it just happens, that it just moves on. It is not addressed. I really love it. So Dale goes digging under Laura's fingernail in a truly sickening sequence.
He goes deep.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. And pulls out the letter R, I believe. A little like piece of paper where there's the letter R, and he seems excited about this. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this whole sequence?
Well, it feels like Dale Cooper is trying to situate this within like a series of serial killings or something. And this is a very like detective novel pulpy thing to have happen. Like it's the killer's calling card is how I read it, that he would leave a letter under the same finger of every girl he kills. Presumably that is actually some sort of meaningful clue, because he mentions that he's seen this before on people and he knew to look, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, from there we go to Donna is at the gas farm. Again, I have a note of just I wanted to be her so bad. This is her. I really love the I think it's like Ed who's saying to her just like I'm so sorry is really good. It's like it's rough. She gets a note from James saying to meet him at the Roadhouse, and my note just says Biff from Back to the Future shows up because I forgot this character's name. I think he's Mike.
He's Mike.
Or
are there two Mikes?
I mean, okay, hold on. What the fuck is his name? What is his fucking name? I think I'd write it later. We'll get there. But for here, I was just like, I don't think it's said here, but I was like, oh, it's Biff from Back to the Future. And I forgot that allegedly him and Donna are dating, which is kind of insane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, he's like, oh, you should be coming with me to the sheriff's to support me with Bobby. Ugh. I guess he needs his girlfriend there. And
scumbag.
Nadine is insane about the drapes. This is our basically, I think, only Nadine moment in this episode is just she is crazy about those drapes.
I actually think she has like between being shown, being heard, and being mentioned, I think she has 3 like appearances in this episode, and they all have to do with the drapes.
Yeah.
Is that how she is for the rest of this show?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Sure.
Yeah, and then we are at the sheriff's where we see Dale just cracks open Laura's diary. Again, a moment that feels like, the all business FBI agent is in town is just breaks it open in a way that feels like callous almost,
Right, because the local sheriff was like, I guess we'll have to find a key, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And Dale, yeah, I guess another case of him not really bringing pointedly not bringing the heaviness that everyone else is carrying. I also want to call out to when Dale picked up the diary, Leland asked if he had to take that, And that is something that gave me pause because, of course, like a grieving father would think, like, do you really need to take this thing of her intimate personal details?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I have a vague recollection that Leland does not come off looking good and maybe was trying to hide some things. So that feels suspect to me too. The fact that maybe Leland wouldn't want Dale looking inside.
Time will tell. Time will tell. I feel like that'll just be my line for this. But yeah, so in the diary, Dale uncovers, I took a note of Laura saying, like, does this mean I'll never grow up? Again, just, it's rough. And we know that she's going to meet someone called Jay. I think she met him on the night that she died. And then we have once again, a like insane tone, like tightrope knife's edge cut from the police being given a bunch of chocolate bunnies and then straight to they found the scene of the crime, and it is like really very grim. And again, like Andy is there and is sobbing his eyes out and is, talking to Lucy on the phone and just says, tell Harry I didn't cry, which I know again is like, so I think melodramatic is, I think, where I would put it, because it is both so real and I love him, but it is also a bit over the top,
Yeah, it totally is a little cheesy, but oh man.
Speaking of, we then have Bobby being interviewed by the cops. I again, just like Bobby Briggs is the most like is unable to say anything in a way that is not just like, I'm a rude fucking teenager. Ugh. But the video footage, they get video footage from, I believe, actually, was this found at the scene of the crime? I forget. But they have this footage, and it is of Laura and Donna on a picnic in the woods. And it's so rough.
Yeah.
It's like the zoom in on Laura's face and in on her eye is like, and she really has a look on her face that feels like Mona Lisa. Like, it is happy but also so tragic. It really hits. That really, really hits for me.
What you said earlier about Laura's death feeling kind of inevitable, between this and the thing that they read out of her diary, it reminds me of okay, this is a real aside, but do you know Jason Molina, the folk musician?
Vaguely.
So frontman of Songs Ohia and Magnolia Electric Co.
Oh, sure.
And he is someone who died young. He died in his 30s. And afterward, so much of his music took on the meaning of sort of being about his premature death. His most iconic song is Farewell Transmission. And man, if that thing does not now read as like a goodbye from this guy who died, I think there is this interesting thing we do, especially with people we don't know or fictional characters who die, where everything just retroactively becomes about their death, whatever they did, you know? Yeah, so seeing this was gutting. And if it was two currently living people, I wouldn't have looked twice.
Yeah, it's so good. I also think it's crazy fucking Dale typing on the calculator that he has with him to Truman, saying like he didn't do it while they're grilling. Why did they have a calculator anyway? It's just so funny.
And it's one that can type words. Maybe this is a kind of calculator I'm not familiar with. It took a ton of effort. It was like he was graphing it.
Yeah. It's very silly. But I think like one of his final lines to Bobby is his like, well, you didn't love her anyway, which is again crazy. Like Dale is a much harsher here than I actually would expect, I think, having the kind of image of him in my mind.
Yeah. That was fucking cruel. I mean, like so far I believe him to be right, but what on earth are you saying, my dude? I guess this is in step with actual police investigations.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Moving on, we have an Audrey scene in which she is just going silly. She wants to know of the Norwegians whether they scarfed the whole damn smorgasbord. I have another note of just, I feel like he just chose Norwegian because it is a funny language. They are just counting off numbers and they're just going like a 2, a 50, tre. And she puts a pencil in a styrofoam cup full of coffee and yanks it out, getting coffee everywhere, and then goes in to tell these Norwegians that her dear friend Laura Palmer was murdered. While the music in this scene is crazy, it feels like circus music.
Well, she's so conniving here.
Yes.
Wait, did you say dear friend? Were they friends?
I feel like she says something like that. We definitely at this point don't know any extent to which they like were not friends. I think this is just Audrey being a prankster.
Yeah, so Audrey's goal here is to make this sort of real estate deal fall apart, is my understanding.
Yeah, she's just causing problems on purpose.
Yeah, it's not really clear why, and it makes her seem pretty evil, because from my recollection, she hasn't really been upset about Laura's death thus far. I could be wrong on that.
Not that we've seen. I feel like there is something here because I think we know by now that Ben Horn is her dad. I feel like there is something about like just trying to fuck over my dad's deal.
Yeah, but the point, like the fact of it being now and using Laura's death as a way to do that is very intriguing. I assume there is some character motivation for it.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. But yeah, just like her line of just she's been murdered and the music is like boom 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 is crazy. We then go back to the police station where Donna is being interviewed and Bobby and it is Mike, but I fucking Bobby calls him Snake, which is so silly. Donna is shown Laura's tape. Again, it just really gets me. She is really miserable throughout it, like watching this, but is adamant that she just like does not. What does she say? She says that like a hiker who was walking by took the video and just left, and they didn't get their name or whatever. She doesn't want to reveal who took this. Lucy, I just have again a note of I love you, Lucy Moran, because she was saying everything in the world. And this bit is very goofy. And again, this like very heartfelt or like this very cutting, emotional, clip of Laura Palmer. And the notion of, actually you zoom into it enough and in her eye, you can see the reflection of a motorcycle is very bonkers. Silly. Because also like, was the motorcycle filming it?
Yeah, you don't see the guy who was there.
Yeah,
it is clearly an important plot point which guy it was.
And like, it's very zoom in and enhance, like how it's just very silly. But yeah, so this is obviously just a way to make us be thinking about Sad James, who we have seen with his motorcycle. I put just Sad James in the woods with his hog, is now implicated here. And again, just like this I kind of going scene by scene, but the scenes are sometimes kind of crazy because then we just go back to the hotel and the Norwegians are leaving. Because they don't want to go through on this deal. I guess Audrey's plan worked. Straight back, we are in the spooky woods, and Dale is investigating the scene of the crime, the train car. It is pretty grim, and he finds a locket, half-heart locket, and a note that reads, written in blood, "Fire walk with me."
Fuck yes. Oh my God. I so don't know what that means. And it is just like an excellent phrase. So
it's great.
Can I assume this contains no spoilers. Do we understand the significance of that phrase just from the first couple seasons of the show? Or is that like revealed in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me? Or do we ever understand? Like, is that a concretely explainable thing?
Like, yes and no, I think is what I can say.
Sure.
Yeah. Time will tell. Smile.
I swear to God.
But yeah, so, Dale's like, we got to find whoever's got the other half of this locket and who is burying the locket, but the other half of the locket, but Sad James with his hog.
So the detectives say we have to find whoever has the other half of this locket because there will be a suspect or like because they will be the killer or something. That feels like a real logical leap.
Yeah.
And I don't just say that because I like James. I say that because like women be dating.
That's so true.
Like why on earth would that be the case? I don't know.
It definitely feels like an instance of the show just kind of indulging in like investigative trope like television. Like I feel like the show kind of knows that, but it's just like leading into it, Like
the enhanced thing. That makes sense.
Yeah. But it is definitely a leap.
Maybe I shouldn't let it bother me.
But yeah, so from there, we go to the Horn family dinner. Ben Horn is miserable. And we see Johnny, who I always forget is in this show, who's Audrey Horn's brother. We just see him. He's very sad. He's like kind of, and the implication is that he's disabled and is kind of like has some kind of developmental disability. He is in a like quote unquote Indian outfit with a big headdress, which, yeah, I mean, honestly, something that we will certainly come back to throughout the course of the show is like Twin Peaks is not racist,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is like when I talk about David Lynch, my read on it at least is like I think David Lynch is a very intuitive filmmaker and is just kind of like gets an idea and doesn't question it and goes with it. And sometimes that means that you get something very like poetic and immediate. And sometimes it means that he's just like not questioning something that should be questioned, such as, wouldn't it be crazy if this kid had an Indian headdress or whatever, Indian in big scare quotes. I feel like this is the language that the show is using for this,
Yeah. I wonder what it is meant to say about the character, if they even thought about it that intentionally. I guess maybe it's just that he is not an adult in some way, that he like is playing dress up. That's
Yeah.
probably as deeply as they
Which
thought
is
about
also
it.
not great, and like there's
No, God, no.
I don't know. I feel like, there's arguably, I think there are bits, indigeneity, especially in Twin Peaks, will return. And I think that David Lynch and like Twin Peaks as a show has some ideas about like deploying indigeneity as a like symbol in a way that is definitely one of the weak points of the show, I will say. But yeah, he is sad because Laura used to come work with him and she can't do that anymore. Next up, we see the cops are going to Laura's safety deposit box because, oh my god, I forgot to say the other thing they find in the diary is a key with cocaine. A key to the safety deposit box.
Wait, with cocaine, I think they just say, I bet you this has cocaine.
I think we're to presume, and this is Dale is like, yeah, I would be certain that is cocaine, and I think Sheriff is like, that's not possible. And Dale's like, you'd be surprised, but I think we are to take away that this is cocaine. And
oh, see, what I took away from that is, Dale's like a big city detective who doesn't know how the small town works. But also, you know how the small town works, so I'm inclined to trust you.
Yeah, I mean, this is like definitely a bit of Sadie has seen all of Twin Peaks, but I think that being cocaine is a good, if it's like Dale said, I think it's a good bet that would test positive for cocaine. But yeah, they did find a key to a safety deposit box. They go to the bank. I really love they're going into this room and it just has like this very dramatic like stag head on the table. And
yes, I took that down too. What a hardcore, just evocative shot for no reason.
But also just like the lady's just like, it fell down. Is so funny. So yeah, from there, they open the safety deposit box and it contains a saucy magazine by the name of Flesh World, which is an insane name for a magazine. And there's a marked page where there's an advertisement for none other than Ronette Pulaski, the other girl. So this is, Dale was very confused about there's no connection between Laura and Ronette, but here we have it.
There seems to be some, yeah.
I also note that like, I think it then pans to on that page is like the picture of Leo's truck, which we then like use to like match cut to Leo's truck outside the house. Like where he is with Shelley, but
yeah,
I'm very confused by this because at first I was assuming that this was like escort ads.
I think it might be both sellers and buyers who advertise in there, or it could just be like generic personals.
Yeah,
along with sellers.
I mean, honestly, if it's buyers, that's also strange. If it is personals ads, but also like. What the fuck is Leo doing taking out a personals ad in fucking Flesh World and the picture is just here's me from 20 feet away with my big truck.
This is my home address. Like
it's very strange.
That's so funny. I literally didn't give it a second thought. I was like, oh yeah, this guy seems like he'd be looking to fuck. And he probably does care about his truck.
Well, listen, you know what they say, fucking and trucking is all that I crave. Unfortunately, Leo is not so pure-hearted as that because, as we see, he is being a real shithead to Shelley about the fact that there are other cigarettes in the ashtray, which we are presuming are Bobby's. And, he's like, I smoke one type of cigarettes. If I see any other cigarettes in here, I'm going to fucking... I forget what he says specifically, but it's not good. I'm going to beat you up. Fuck this guy.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
But his note... Go ahead.
I get even more, like, straightforwardly rancid vibes off this guy than off Bobby. Because he seems to know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, this is, I think, maybe one of the worst guys in the show.
Yeah, I could see that.
But his delivery here is, like, it's funny because it's very wooden. but it feels intentional. Like, it feels very, like, soap opera. Like, it feels like David Lynch sat down and told him, like, make your delivery feel like it's in a soap opera. I forget his specific lines, but he's just very like, now listen here, Shelley. I smoke one kind of cigarettes, you know?
Yeah, because we know David Lynch can get like stellar, like otherworldly performances out of people. I have no doubt that it's on purpose, especially compared to like anyone else in any of his shows or movies. This is
Yeah.
it calls attention to its woodenness for sure. Well, because this
And
is like a caricature of a terrible man.
yes, and it is very like a guy who is like he is a soap opera character, you know, in that way of being a caricature. Which, speaking of soap operas, we then are going back to the gas farm to find out that oh mon dieu, Ed, who's married to Nadine, who is still just going crazy about those drapes, is having an affair with Norma, who runs the Double R Diner. Oh mon dieu.
Oh mon Dieu, sacré bleu, Colin.
Colin de Bin.
Bouncing across the Atlantic here.
Yeah. Oh, Lily, do you know about the French Canadian content in Twin Peaks at all?
Oh, for a second I thought I did, but no, I know about the French Canadian content in The Sopranos because Vic was just showing me yesterday the Québécois. What is the French Canadian content? I think it's just that there's like some French Canadians who we don't like in the show, right?
We this is like I'm giving you a soft spoiler here, but like there are several plot lines in this show that are centered on French Canadians being directly across the border from Twin Peaks in British Columbia, which is very, very funny. It's great. That's hilarious. The Quebecois representation in Twin Peaks is very funny. Anyway, so moving on, it's the town hall about how they're going to tackle the investigation. Coop was very excited that he saw a rabbit. Josie walks in and Dale says, "Who's the babe?" Which I just wrote, can you show Josie some respect, Dale? Come on. We then get some exposition about Josie, Catherine, and Ben Horn, everything we basically talked about earlier, and why none of them are happy with each other. And my note here, I think, we talked about this, of just, who's the lady with the log? We call her the log lady. It's so funny.
That's funny as hell.
So we have the kooky mayor who is having a tough time following anything, and Dale gives a speech talking about Teresa Banks, who was found murdered, I think, a year ago. And he says, like, I can't say the details, but in similar conditions to Laura Palmer. I think we've been told that he also found a letter under her fingernail. And, establishing the stakes of the mystery, says there will probably be a curfew. And then we cut to outside. And I just wrote this down because it felt like a very intentional, weird shot to put in, is that we see nighttime by showing a traffic light going from green to red.
Oh, I don't remember this. So it's like a crossfade kind of thing.
No, I think it just like cuts to it as like this is like the kind of interstitial shot in between this and the next scene. Which is interesting. I think it comes back later. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing, but it seems very intentionally placed.
Sure. I mean, I could see an interesting effect happening if you cut from daytime with green traffic light to nighttime with green traffic light. Like, people always describe Lynch's movies as dreamlike, and I wonder what that would have done. Different vibe, I think. Anyway,
next up we have this is at the Hayward household, and I think this is where we learn that Doc Hayward, who we saw earlier, is Donna's father. Doc Hayward is talking with his wife about how they found half of a necklace. Donna overhears it and is like, oh no, they might think that James is the killer, and goes out to, I guess, find him. I want to shout out to Donna's sister, Harriet, who is here, who I don't know if she ever returns. I don't think so.
Oh, that's a shame. I thought she gave a great performance. I really love her asking for feedback on her poetry. It's like, do I use the blossom of the evening or the full flower of the evening? And then once Donna leaves, she just talks to herself out loud and she goes, I think I like the full blossom of the evening.
It's really good. I also really liked her like asking for feedback, and Donna's like, "This is serious," and she goes, "Well, this is serious too." The poetry girls represent. I also
Yeah.
made a note of in Donna's bedroom, she has like a fake birdhouse with a fake bird, which I'm intrigued by as a thing. I know this is like I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in terms of this show, but I think thinking about Donna and Laura's relationship to each other. And I mean, I guess like later on, like we do have someone yelling at Donna, like, you're just like Laura. I think
Oh, wow.
Donna's, yeah, I mean, I think that I can't say too much because we're in the first episode of the show, but I think thinking about like Donna as kind of imitating Laura in some ways, and the idea of like, is Laura a bird that was in a cage, and is Donna like an imitation bird in an imitation cage? I don't know. This is all very. I don't. This is just what it brought in me, but this is kind of tenuous, but I do really like it. So
No,
she.
that is supremely interesting. As you know, I'm a bird fiend, so any kind of bird symbolism, I'm all for it. I'm gonna watch for this.
Ooh, Birdwatch has been called.
Can I ask you a question about something in the scene?
Yeah, totally.
As a noted poetry girly, would you have suggested the blossom of the evening or the full flower of the evening?
Actually,
I know where I stand.
okay, let's both say our answer at the same time, okay? 3, 2, 1. The full flower of the evening.
Let's
Yay!
go.
I think the alliteration with the F's is nice, you know?
Oh, shit. Well, here's what I was thinking. The full flower places it at a point in time, and if it's fuller, it can only shrink, you know? So if it's
Damn,
like, if it's
so
at
true.
its peak the same way the evening is, that implies the eventual coming of the dawn and like withering of the flower in the way I like.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to fucking poetry's time.
We should start every episode with a poem about the episode. No, too many segments.
So
Let's move on.
Okay. So Donna sneaks out, and no sooner does she leave than Mike, which is his name. He is Mike, which is very funny. Mike and Bobby show up. I think Bobby tells Mike, "Don't take any oink oink off that pretty pig." Which again, just seems like Twin Peaks is just putting insane TV dialogue in here.
What the fuck does that mean?
It's crazy. Bobby like standing on the car, doing like a halfway between a dance and just trying to keep his balance. I really love Doc Hayward answers the door and is like, "Oh, a few kids been drinking," and Mike goes, "Oh well, Bobby's doing most of the driving," as we cut to Bobby like with a beer in hand, losing his mind on his car. Is so funny. I also just have a note, like, why does he call Mike Snake? When I look at that guy, that is not a snake type guy.
Homoerotic validation.
You know, so true. Bestie.
Dude's worried about his endowment. That's my guess.
So true. Let's see. I also, just speaking of Harriet, I really love when Dog Hayward goes in to find out what's happened to Donna. She just says, "I'm gonna tell it to you, and I'm gonna tell it to you straight." It just really feels like this character's bit is just like kind of beatnik poet, but also kind of like noir, like just like very kid who speaks in writer speak. It's very silly.
I love her. I really like her so far.
And yeah, so then we follow fucking Bobby and Snake to the Roadhouse, which is the town's bar, but is like, I think, again, in a way that feels like it's kind of placed in a soap opera. The vibe of the Roadhouse is kind of hard to place for me. Like, it's framed as a biker bar because we see all of the fucking hogs outside, but then there's also a like wistful crooning performance happening, but also like Big Ed is there with Norma.
And there's young people there, and it's like a place you would take a date. Yeah, weird.
It very much feels like in a small town way and in a like soap opera way. It's just like an amalgamation of all the ideas of what a bar could be, whether that is like a cozy place to hang out or a seedy biker joint, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I'm curious because this place seems to have a bit of a reputation in this episode. Like I'm curious what kind of spot this bar occupies in like the consciousness of the concerned parents and all.
Yeah.
It's funny that the teenagers just go to the town bar where all the adults hang out. Maybe that's how small towns work. What do I know?
Yeah, it is very funny. And like it is definitely like filling all roles of like what a bar is in this kind of fiction, it feels like. And Julie Cruz is there, who does the Twin Peaks theme, and she's singing the Twin Peaks theme, and it's great.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool.
We find that Ed and Norma, as they pursue their, it's like an affair, but it's unclear how. I guess it is consummated. They talk about it, but we find out that Norma's boyfriend Hank is in the joint for manslaughter. And they both intend to break things off with their respective partners, but they haven't quite done it yet.
Yes.
I really love Julie Cruz's leather outfit too in this. She has like a leather jacket and like a little like cap. Like she looks like she's in Cruising, the movie, you know? But yeah, so Julie Cruz, great outfit. Whoa, Julie Cruz. Damn, it all comes together. And she's performing in front of some beautiful red curtains, which that's a fun image. Anyway, Dale is whittling outside on stakeout. He says, because that's what you do in a town where yellow light still means slow down, not speed up, which is another Spotlight mention. So I don't know. Maybe that does mean something. We get a call from Lucy, who is patching Doc Hayward through, saying that Donna has escaped or has snuck out. And again, just some Lucy really like telling everyone involved, like, okay, I'm going to patch you through now, Dr. Hayward. Okay, here's Dr. Hayward. Okay, I'm patching you through. I love her so much.
I would die for her.
So now Donna is showing up to presumably try to find James. And Mike and Bobby accost her. And yeah, this is like Mike to Donna. He says, you and Laura, you're exactly the same. Which is interesting. Feels very pointed. I'm jotting that down. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah, Mike accosts Donna. Ed accosts Mike. A brawl ensues. The bikers join in. I think.
Yeah, everyone joins in, and there's such stagey fighting of like people headbutting.
Oh, it's so delightfully choreographed. Like it feels like a Star Trek fight, you know? Like just I'm punching a foot to the right of your head and you go, ooh, you know? I also love, great. I think Bobby saying to Ed, lights out, Mr. Monkey Wrench is so funny. I at first thought the bikers were going to be nefarious, but I guess they're actually taking Donna to James. They're helping her escape. It's the bikers' code of honor. So this is Joey, we find, who is leading her to James, two J names that Dale is very curious about. So Harry and Dale follow them. Also throughout all this, that Julie Cruz just like keeps singing, the song keeps playing. Like there is a brawl emerging and she's just like, listen, buddy, the show goes on. And let's see. So then I just had some other, like, as they are, as Dale and Sheriff Truman are pursuing them, I think Truman says, you think they spotted us? And Dale just goes, give me a donut, which is very funny. And he just wants to smell those Douglas firs.
This has me so curious what Douglas firs smelled like. Do you know?
I mean, I guess
they smell especially good.
I actually, I don't know if because I've never really, I was in Vancouver once when I was a kid, but I've never really been in like when I was a kid, I was like 5 or something. So
yeah,
we have pine trees, but we don't have like big Douglas firs. So hey, maybe we should make a trip and find out what they smell like.
I hear Vancouver is a real bummer.
Next up, we see Donna and James talking about the last time James saw Laura. And this scene actually really fucking hits. I really like this scene. I was writing down James's lines. He said it was kind of like a nightmare, Donna. She was a different person. There were things she was involved with, things she let herself get pulled into, things she thought you'd hate her for. She said there are things about me Donna doesn't even know about me. Donna says I knew her better than she thought I did. And James says she said something about a guy getting killed, that Bobby killed a guy. This line I really wrote down. It all makes some kind of terrible sense that she died, that someone killed her. I don't know. I can't explain it.
God.
Yeah.
Christ.
It's rough. Oh, and again, Streetlight mentioned, because he's saying that he was driving with her and they stopped at a light. He said she put her hands around my neck and she screamed she loved me. Her eyes were clear. It was like she was Laura again, which is really something about if she wasn't earlier. She was so sad. She sounded so desperate. Then she ran off. I let her go and she died.
I want to call to the fact that this also sounds very written, right? And to me it feels, I mean, beautifully written, but like not naturalistic at all. The way it feels out of place really hits for me, because like these are kids, you know, these are kids adopting this role of now like, oh shit, I have to be a grieving person processing a murder. Yeah, the way it feels out of place makes it so much sadder to me.
Yeah, it's this scene really, really hits for me. It's really rough. Donna goes to comfort him, but then they start making out. They say, I'm sorry. I changed my mind. I'm not sorry. They're smooching. And then they hear sirens approaching. And James does not want to get rid of the necklace, even though they think it would make him a suspect. So that they decide to just bury it right where they are. And I really like in the shot of them burying it, there's like the light, the like headlamp of the motorcycle is in the corner, or actually I guess it's maybe the mirror, but it's like lit up in the corner. It's kind of like a faux moon, like lighting them burying the necklace, which I thought was really great.
That's lovely.
And then next up, they're leaving, and Coop does intercept James and Donna. Another just like very TV show dialogue I wrote of, I think Coop says, what goes around comes around. Truman goes around and around, which is like
around and around.
What's happening? So they take James in to custody, and who should already be in jail but Beavis and Butthead, fucking Bobby and Snake.
These fuckers.
Not
to get ahead of ourselves here, but I think they bark at him as a way to like.
It's crazy.
It's just. I can't imagine something more hellish than being in this big, cold, echoey room. The only feature is these two guys who like hate you. I don't know if like this version of the jail cell is something that just exists for TV or what.
What is very like, I made a note of like when they walk in, like Bobby is really holding the bars like a cartoon Jailhouse guy.
Yeah. It reminds me of the jail scenes in the movie Kill Your Darlings, which is quite bad.
I don't know this movie, but
Daniel Radcliffe plays that one beat poet, Alan something.
Wait.
Anyway, his gay lover is in a jail cell, I think, and like
fucking Allen Ginsberg. This is so silly.
Yeah.
It's just like, what, like, did Bobby and Snake have like a bark, like, because they both just go into it. There's no consulting and being like, hey, what if we barked at this guy? Like, did they have a pre-established like bark protocol? Like, we are just gonna start barking at a guy. Like, it feels so like they had to have, must have happened before. They practiced this, you know?
That's so funny. Well, this is also kind of an American media convention, right? That like rowdy college-age boys will bark when they're getting hype. Yeah. I've seen this for sure. I don't know why they would do it. This is one of those things that I think of Canada as just America light on some level, but I don't get their like youth culture whatsoever. So maybe the young boys do bark.
That is true. I mean, I think especially like college and high school, like, and part of this might also just be a Quebec thing because of how the Quebec, for our listeners, like outside of Quebec high school, there's no middle school. You just do high school from grade 7 to grade 11. And then we have 2 years of cégep, which is like a pre-university. You can do a trade or you can do a kind of pre-university degree, which I think honestly is way better than having to go to uni. But I think that I think that means that we don't really have like college, quote unquote, as a phenomenon in the same way. Because I feel like it's more like when you're going to get your undergraduate degree, if you've done 2 years of cégep, that's still like you're in university. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I find that the people who often will kind of get rowdy in the college kid way are the international students or the out of province
It's
students.
very funny.
Because there are dorms and student
Yeah,
housing
yeah.
and stuff. You could probably speak more to this, but the university students I know are not about that life. They don't live close to campus or anything.
And I think there is just also like, I don't know, I feel like anyway, this is we're kind of getting besides the point. This is welcome to
Yeah,
college
big
talk. But I think this is like one of the things that's like Canada is and the US are different. But anyway, the boys are barking.
The big, beautiful, buff boys be barking.
Fuck yeah, Lily.
Bow wow. I don't think they're beautiful.
You know, I'm not ashamed to say that when I look at Bobby and Shelley, sometimes I'm like, this can be put through the Dyko vision, you know?
Big, beautiful Bobby Butch boy.
See, she never stops. She's cooking at all times.
We have fun.
Other things in this scene, Donna meets her dad. It's quite cute. He's like, he understands, and they want to go get the bicycle that she left at the roadhouse. He says that he's so thankful to have a daughter like you. And Dale walks into the kind of conference room they have at the police station with a donut spread, announces that it's a policeman's dream. Truly, like, we're just leaning into every trope, you know? I love, and Dale gives a rant on these motels, you know? They'll advertise a fair price, but you get there and it's a whole different question. He gets set up with a room at the Great Northern, which we know is run by Ben Horn. And yeah, and then the scene ends with the big, beautiful buff boys barking.
Can that be the title of this episode? Nah, maybe.
So anyway, listen, it's a contender. So next up, Oh Mon Dieu, another soap opera romance. It turns out that the sheriff and Josie have a romance. And it's actually unclear to me, like, does Josie live with, like, Catherine and Pete? I realized that, like, before in the first scene, like, when we saw her for a second and then cut to Pete, I was like, oh, that's just because they're connected characters. But now it's like Sheriff Truman is going to see Josie and Catherine, like, snoops through the window. So do they just, like, live in the same house? It's very confusing.
I don't know,
to me,
but
actually, I don't know unless it's like the office of the mail or something. Anyway, yeah, you don't know. I don't know. But either way, Catherine snoops through the window and is on the phone with someone. We don't know. Oh mon Dieu, who could it be? But says, oh, he's here again. We have a moment of Ben Horn contemplating his model ship, and Truman and Josie watching the log near that, like, behind which Laura was found. Truman says it must have happened 24 hours ago. And Josie says, I'm afraid. And we cut to the streetlight again here, or the stoplight.
Oh my goodness. And is it also in the title sequence or in the end credits or something?
Oh, maybe. But I know we cut to it here. And actually, I am going to, like, make a note of it here because we see the stoplight and we hear the rush of wind in the trees sound. And this is just another Sadie, like, wind in the trees, electricity.
There's a connection.
There's a connection. There are things here. Keep that one on the board. And actually, again here, it is additionally, they are tied because we then cut from the sound of the wind in the trees to the, like, tortured electrical whir of the ceiling fan as we are back at the Palmer household where Sarah Palmer is having a horrible time. And again, we get like that one angle of the staircase up at the ceiling fan, and we hear the electrical whir. They do such a good job at making that angle just so terrifying.
Yeah, holy fuck. And I really can't place my finger on what it is.
It's so good.
It's lit weird.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
one thing.
lighting, the sound does so much for it. And the way that it's just so unexplained. And like, I'm thinking a lot of what you said earlier about how the show will use these like tropes and conventions and like very kind of stock dialogue and like images and characters that creates a sense of comfort. And then when it drops in stuff like this, of just here's this completely unexplained, like this shot can't be contextualized in the kind of like trope vocabulary of a soap opera or a detective show. It's just there, and you just feel so adrift all of a sudden, you know?
It gives you nothing to grip onto.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing like my girlfriend. I'm gonna cut that one. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? So yeah, and then from there we see, oh mon dieu, the buried necklace in the woods. A gloved figure is actually finding it, and Sarah Palmer seems to like have a vision of this, and she darts up and screams, and that's the end of the episode. And I do actually have, well, go ahead, you first. I'll have a little anecdote, but tell me what you were thinking about this.
So I was finishing this on Wednesday evening around 10:30. I was on the couch, I was home alone, and I was slowly falling asleep over the last couple scenes. And the scream was terrifying. It woke me up. I mean, I wasn't all the way asleep, but it like really got the blood pumping. It felt like I had been running. So most effective jump scare of my life, I think.
Damn.
Just wanted to flag that.
Let's go. So my final note on this scene is that when she jumps up, I don't know if you noticed, but there is actually a person in the mirror behind her in the reflection.
Oh my God, like on purpose?
Yeah. Well, so this is kind of a fun story. So the person in that reflection is Frank Silva, who, I'm pulling up his Wikipedia page, was just...
Second only to Frank Gold.
Fuck off. No, because he was just working as a prop master and set decorator. He had worked on some previous David Lynch movies, and this is another instance of like an accident in the show just being incorporated. So while they were filming the pilot, there were two things. Here, I'll just read from his Wikipedia. Lynch was upstairs in the Laura Palmer house near Silva as he worked, and suddenly realized that Silva might have a place in the show. I think he was saying that Silva was like crouching down near the bed to like adjust the prop, and he looked kind of like trapped there through the bars of the bed.
My God.
And David Lynch thought that was just like really striking, and then like shot a shot of him, like had them like just like shoot him through that. And
oh wow,
the idea was, I think this, like the network said, if it wasn't picked up as a show, then we just have this movie version of it that is in Europe.
Isn't that what they did with Mulholland Drive or Inland Empire or something?
Yeah, Mulholland Drive was actually shot as a pilot and then was turned into a movie. Yeah, because it didn't get picked up.
Funny, no one else does that really.
It's a very interesting.
Yeah,
I'll flag the scenes when we get to them next time. But here, Lynch shot a scene where Silva was crouched at the foot of Laura's bed, staring at the camera with no idea of where it would fit. Later, when shooting a scene like this scene of Laura's mother bolting up, the camera operator told Lynch that they would have to repeat the scene because a crew member had accidentally been caught in a reflection. Lynch asked who, and the operator told him it was Frank Silva. Seeing this as a sign, Lynch decided to keep the shot as it was. So again, this was just the same crew member who was just accidentally in this reflection, and they kept it in here, and this guy then becomes an actor in this show, and like without saying anything too pointed, like there will be quite a few scenes like this man will return as just an actor solely because he was accidentally caught in a reflection and David Lynch thought he looked weird crouching in the corner and just said, like, you're an actor now. You're in my show. We'll figure it out.
That is like that just excites me about the entire medium. Like, that is so freaking cool. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I didn't notice this when I was watching.
Yeah, it's very minor.
But that's cool as hell. Shout out Dave.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
I want to be someone who trusts my intuition that much, you know?
Yes.
I mean, this is a conversation we have often because I think as a poetry and fiction person, intuition is probably pretty important to your process. I make YouTube educational videos, so it's like I tend to have to be a lot more careful and measured with like every word I say. The idea of just making a mistake like that and being like, I'm not only owning that, I am gonna start doing it on purpose. I feel like this guy, his process has things to teach me.
Yeah, no, it's great. And like truly that aspect of the way David Lynch makes the stuff is like really has like kind of changed the way that I make art, because it has, I think there are moments when I'm like, am I too much on my bullshit? And the thing is, like, in an early draft especially, you need to just let yourself be on your bullshit and you can fix it later if you need to edit it, you know? But I'm just like, no, David Lynch would just go for it, you know? And it really, I think, has helped me feel confident and, like, liberated in just following artistic intuition and following decisions that are fucking weird, you know? So that's the end of the episode. What are your thoughts overall?
My thoughts. So here's the thing. You had shown me this episode maybe a year ago before we really planned on making this. It had been long enough that I forgot just about everything. Mm-hmm. So I still feel like I'm experiencing it fresh. My overall takeaway is this is a really strong episode of television. It is more TV-ish than I remember. Like, you often hear the factoid that, like, you know, Twin Peaks was getting 10 million, 20 million viewers a night, as almost like a joke of how on earth could that have happened? Watching this pilot, I understand that, because this was a like artistic but normal episode of television.
Yeah.
Enough so that it confused me.
Well, and I think it's like so much of the points where it gets weird and gets David Lynchy is that they're doing it in a way that's like passing through heavy, like it's getting to like David Lynch shit via classic soap opera and detective stuff in a way that I think like obviously did make it more accessible, because even if you're not someone who wants to engage with fucking, you know, Mulholland Drive or Inland Empire or whatever, if the weirdness is dialed up through the way that like a soap opera is weird and artificial, I think that gives people something to grab onto, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's an interesting contrasting Lynch with other like experimental but fairly mainstream American filmmakers. Like, obviously my man Charlie Kaufman is I would say less experimental, but also receives more flack for his experimentation. I think those two are interesting to contrast because, I mean, Charlie Kaufman's movies don't really make money, and people have the same pieces of feedback about them all the time, which is that they are confusing, that they're like hard to follow. I wonder if, yeah, that is a comparison I think I'm going to be thinking about a lot, because David Lynch's weirdness, I guess it is just really firmly rooted in American pop culture, so people understand what it's trying to do more intuitively.
I mean, at least in Twin Peaks, you know, like we've watched Inland Empire. That movie's just going crazy, you know?
Sure, but even something like Mulholland Drive, like that is a more experimental movie than I'm Thinking of Ending Things or Synecdoche, New York, some of my favorites of Charlie Kaufman's. But it made decent money, you know, and it is, maybe it's just that people don't watch it unless they are open to having a truly weird experience. But that is a really experimental movie that I don't hear the same sort of disdain for as your I'm thinking of ending things. Although now that I'm saying that, that was a Netflix movie, so I think it probably it was like an art house Netflix movie, and when an art house movie is accessible to everyone on Netflix, I guess you're just bound to get some more divided reception. Maybe it's that.
But I think that there is something there about like David Lynch, especially in Twin Peaks, but kind of across the board, is like very interested in Americana and in like TV and movies and like the way that they speak to people and just like how they are made, and like in a way that I think keeps them often rooted in a kind of cultural landscape that I think can give people something to grab onto, you know? I see that you have put into our notes Lily's Nightmare Corner. You were saying that you were watching this episode before bed. Did you have Twin Peaks dreams?
No, but I wanted to introduce this new segment that I'm going to try to get off the ground. I don't know if it'll be called Lily's Nightmare Corner forever, but basically, David Lynch's movies and presumably the show are often described as like dreamlike, following dream logic. So I thought it would be fun because I am someone who tends to have very vivid dreams to think about the show really hard before bed in hopes of giving myself nightmares about the plot and world and characters.
Lily, you are really like you're never just like, oh, I'm going to talk about Twin Peaks. You're like, I need to intentionally give myself Twin Peaks nightmares. Is crazy.
I'm trying to have an immersive experience here, Sadie. So it didn't work. It did not work this week, but it has worked for other things in the past. When I was a kid, when I was really into the video game Sonic Heroes and I didn't want to stop playing for bed, I would think really hard about Sonic before bed, and then my dreams would be me playing Sonic.
Lily, that is my favorite fact about you I have ever. How did I not know this? That's crazy.
I don't know. I thought I told this story a lot.
That's so funny. Of Sonic Heroes of all things is so funny. Oh, that's really good.
Absolutely mid. I was never good at it. I was never good at it in my dreams, by the way. I would just get my ass kicked. So I'm going to keep this up. I'm going to try every week the night before recording to just like maybe journal about Twin Peaks or rewatch some scenes or something and see where this takes us. I think it could be interesting.
I really love this. This is so funny.
Thank you.
Well, I do have two other Lily-focused segments for the end here. Just because, like, I think part of the joy of the kind of show where, like, one person in a podcast has seen the show and the other person hasn't is just, like, sitting down the person who hasn't seen it and just being like, well, and what do you think about that? And what do you think will happen next? I remember Friends at the Table is a podcast that started doing a partner podcast about Hunter x Hunter, the anime, which is fucking great. And they did a bit of just like a stream of just each person could show the one person who had never seen Hunter x Hunter one screenshot entirely out of context and just have them try to describe what they think is happening, which is a very funny bit. So on that note, Lily, who killed Laura Palmer?
Who killed Laura Palmer?
Yeah.
The Barking Boys.
You think it was the Barking Boys? All right.
Okay, wait, no. I had serious guesses, didn't I? Either the Barking Boys or the weird smarmy doctor.
Dr. Jacoby. These are both very viable guesses.
Thank you. I'm curious where they stand in the meta this week. Maybe we do odds.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna say 30% on the Barking Boys because it's just too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And then other 70 on the doctor. My confidence on this is about 20%.
Okay. And this one is just we'll see if this one is something that is sustainable in terms of putting you on the spot. But Lily, tell us what happens next time on Twin Peaks.
Next time on Twin Peaks, I think James is arrested and interrogated because I think they find the necklace.
Okay, you think the cops found it?
Yeah, I do. Oh man,
because he already got arrested.
Yeah, it's true, but they didn't have
You
any.
think you sorry, wait. So, okay, wait, hold on. No. We're running with this. James is released because they don't have anything. And then the cops have found the necklace and then they rearrest him. Just when he thinks he's out, they pull him back in.
Yeah, fuck it, sure.
Okay. Any other guesses? What's everyone else up to?
I think we meet Nadine and understand why she's so obsessed with the curtains.
Why is she so obsessed with the drapes? Tell me.
Because her husband bought those drapes as an apology gift for some sort of adultery related indiscretion, but now he's not taking care of them.
Fucked up.
So there's a marital rift here on the drape theme.
All right. Well, join us next week as we follow our A plot of James being released and arrested again, and our B plot of some drapes related intrigue. This has been the pilot episode of TSTV.
I am your host, TS.
And I'm TV.
I don't want to put you in that position.
we need to, oh my God. I just almost said the sentence. We need to bring a cross-dresser on to... We gotta go. We gotta stop. Have a good night, everybody.
Oh my God.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. TSTV is hosted by Sadie Avery Lake and yours truly, Lily Alexandre. Our music is by Jamie Page. The art is by Mya Fernandes-Giles. This episode was edited by me. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at hello@tstv@gmail.com. We may include your mail on a future episode of the show. Let us know if that's okay. If you want to support the show and gain access to our monthly bonus episodes, head over to tstv.show. See you next time.
Content warnings for episode 1, Traces to Nowhere. This is, I would say again, more implications of sexual violence, and they're talking about some of the particular violence of the murder. As well, near the end, there is a scene of Leo beating Shelley that, as far as Leo and Shelley scenes, I would say is rather brutal. But yeah, that's all.